calling to order Arts Commission regular meeting on September 16th, 2021. Would you take the roll call, Louise?
Of course. Chair Tosher?
Here.
Commissioner Steiner?
Here.
Commissioner Chisholm?
Oh, he doesn't hear.
No. Commissioner Chisholm is present. I think we may be having a little communication issues. Commissioner West?
Here.
Commissioner St. James Lopez?
Eric, can you hear us?
I think you might be on mute.
Sorry, I was muted. I'm here.
Okay, perfect. And Commissioner Golden?
Here.
Perfect.
Can someone text Nigel or otherwise let him know?
Yes, I've sent him an email letting him know.
Or a message? Could you message him through Zoom?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. I can go ahead and do that here.
Yeah, he knows how to use that.
Well, something will pop up on a screen.
Okay. Perfect.
Okay.
I could write a sign and hold it up.
Oh,
I've sent a message.
okay.
Gotta look at it.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, Luis, could you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Of course. I'll go ahead and stand. Okay.
I'll stand.
Right hand over heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Now we've reached the item where we receive public comments. The Arts Commission will receive comments from the public at this time for items not on the agenda. Other than for emergency items on the agenda, no response will be given or action taken during this period. Matters raised at this time requiring commission action will be placed on a subsequent agenda. When addressing the commission, please state your name and address or the city that you live in, and please limit your comments to 3 minutes unless we state otherwise. Before we get into the consent items, I want to advise you of a correction to the agenda, and that is on C, under discussion and action items, number 2, name change for public art jury. That is in the incorrect place. We need to move that item.
It's eliminated.
Well, we'll discuss it in the context of the mural ordinance adjustments.
Okay.
Under number 1, mural ordinance adjustments. Yeah. See it? Do you see?
Hmm?
Do you see? Mural ordinance adjustments will be discussed then.
Absolutely. Of
Okay.
course.
Oh, you said no.
On the
Okay.
red line, yeah.
Okay. Then we can move along to the consent items. And we have 3 sets of minutes from June 17th, regular meeting, July 23rd, special meeting, and August 18th, a special meeting. So let's handle June 17th regular meeting first. Are there any corrections to be noted for those minutes? No? No? Okay, I'll assume that's okay. Then the meetings from July 23rd, the special meeting. Do we have any corrections? Christine?
No.
Christine Golden?
Christine.
Christine Golden?
Okay. Yes, I'd like to correct under number 4A that in the last, or let's see, how many sentences in? Well, it's, I think, the second sentence, the first, or the third sentence. It says, the starting slate of jurors consisted of the following members. I'd like that to say propose.
Okay.
There's no confusion.
Okay.
Slate of jurors, and also Ray Powers was the community member at large, and Teddy Nava was the art professional. So that's needs to be corrected as well.
Thank you.
Actually, Elizabeth Herring was the arts professional, and Teddy Nava did not serve.
Well, that's why I wanted the word propose there, because this is actually reflecting the proposed jury, not the final jury.
Okay.
So, and it's, you're absolutely right on what you said, though, Christine. And then in the second paragraph, during the presentation, and then as it goes on, it noted that if any of the jury members, and again, I think it should say proposed slate, and again, for the very reason of what just happened here.
Okay.
Because it gets confused that that was not actually the slate that served,
Sure.
because he was unavailable.
Okay, received. Thank you.
So that's it for me.
Any other corrections? Okay, we can move on to the third set of minutes for the special meeting on August 18th, 2021. Are there any corrections? No? No, okay. So, I call for a motion then to approve.
So moved.
Second? I don't hear a second.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to our discussion and action
Well,
items.
With that, I'll do a quick just roll call for
Oh, okay,
Melody.
sure.
So we'll begin with Commissioner Golden,
Yes.
Chair Tosher,
Yes.
Commissioner St. James Lopez,
Yes.
Commissioner Steiner,
Yes.
Commissioner West,
Yes.
and it looks like we may have lost Commissioner Chisholm.
Maybe he had a bad
With that being the case.
bad connection.
Yeah, motion passes.
Okay.
Okay, and one quick note, just for the record, we received no public comments this evening.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, discussion and action items. The motion passed. Discussion and action items. First topic will be the grants. And I'm going to discuss grants with everyone. Before we get into it, I want to say that we received 9 grants were submitted, and I assembled the packages for everyone and reviewed them all, and they will be available tomorrow. You can pick them up from Luisa's office at the rec department, and pick them up as soon as you can, because you need to start, most importantly, reviewing the grant or grants you've been assigned, and really pick them apart and contact the grant applicant if there's anything glaring that's missing, any mistakes that are glaring. You need to contact them right away and inform them of that. Also, to remind them that we would love for them to be here at our next commission meeting, which will be October 21st. They will have 2 minutes, and stress the length of the presentation, 2 minutes to present kind of in elevator speak their grant. Then each commissioner will have a chance to ask the applicant questions. So I think first thing, most important, dig into to your grant that you've been assigned, and then you can make sure you read them all before October 21 when we meet all of the grantees. Okay, so, well, let me go through some of the as you're reading the grant that you were assigned, the considerations you need to give the application. First, it's checked off whether or not this is an individual applying or an organization applying. So the rules for an individual would be that they need to be at least 18 years of age, they need to be working in artistic discipline, they need to either be a practicing professional or pursuing professional status. They need to be a resident of the Ojai Valley for at least 1 year, and they need a fiscal receiver that is an Ojai Valley-based arts or cultural organization, and it's been operating for at least 3 years, and has 501c3 tax-free status. And the fiscal receiver must attach the W-9, most recent W-9 to their application. And this is really important. We need a signed letter of agreement between the applicant and the fiscal receiver. Ideally, it's just something very simple, that agrees, the fiscal receiver agrees to receive funds on behalf of the applicant and disperse them to the applicant as required, and that the applicant, in turn, hands over the funds it receives from the city to the fiscal receiver. We received, which I will probably want Christine Steiner to review, very involved fiscal receiver agreement, which maybe she can make some sense of it and whether or not it's something we should accept. So I'd like you to look at that. I don't believe the fiscal
Yes,
receivership is in one of the grants assigned to you, but, okay. Now, for individual artists, the approval criteria, these are things that should be in your head as you go through it. You want to look at the clarity, originality, and depth of the idea presented in the proposal, the quality and originality of the work based upon examples provided, and the soundness of a plan, including the budget and timeline. Is it realistic? The strength and appropriateness of the fiscal receiver. We'd like a fiscal receiver who is somewhat versed in whatever the project involves or whatever experience with that type of project. We want to look at the impact upon the quality of life in Ojai and the Ojai Valley. And does it help develop skills or experience of the artist and the collaborators? And then feasibility, that it can be accomplished, the project can be accomplished if they only are awarded a portion of the grants requested. Those are the considerations for individual artists. Next, for arts organizations, the primary, what their background needs to be, their primary focus should be in the exhibiting, performing, producing, or presenting of arts and cultural programming accessible to the City of Ojai residents. This is important. The next point, the arts organizations must have an exhibiting, performing, producing, or presenting history of at least 3 years. Public and private schools may seek funding, but only in collaboration with a qualified arts organization. And the arts organization must submit the application. Student projects aren't eligible for consideration. The arts organization needs 501c3 status, or they are associated with an appropriate fiscal receiver. And the organization must have a board of directors. Ideally, we'd like to know who the board of directors are. The arts organization must have an annual operating budget detailing their income and expenses for the proposed project. And the activity must take place in the city of Ojai. If it's not, if it's held outside of city limits, then they must demonstrate how, even though it's outside of city limits, how it will benefit citizens of the city of Ojai. And for the arts organization, their approval criteria, it's very similar to the individual artist: clarity, originality, depth of idea presented in the proposal, qualifications of the artist, collaborators, and other key people involved in the project, the project's potential effectiveness in addressing a specific community need, soundness of the plan, feasibility, including budget and timeline. You need to, this is something that you might ask, or we can ask in the presentation. What is the organization's, what are their mission and goals? Is this consistent? Is this project consistent with their organization's missions and goals? We look at their track record in terms of the ability to successfully carry out previous projects, the organization's strength and role in the community, including financial, health, and ability to raise funds if needed, the strength and stability of the organization's management, leadership, or strength and appropriateness of the fiscal receiver if applicable. And again, lastly, feasibility that the project can be accomplished if they're only granted a portion of the funds. I know. The next thing I want to do is discuss, when you get these applications, okay, what do you do with them? These are this is your protocol when you look at the grants. Review the grant thoroughly. Make sure initially, there's a checklist on the front page. Some of the people check it off so that you look at it and you see, oh, well, it looks like they really focused on it, but still check to see that they're all there. A lot of the applicants didn't even check the boxes, but you will check in any event, either way. You need to call the applicant as soon as possible after this meeting to review the grant to discuss what's missing, encourage them to come to the October 21st Arts Commission meeting. You can't alter the grant, but you can suggest to the applicant certain areas need clarification with your suggestions. Applicants will be prepared to answer commission questions. They should be prepared to answer the questions. Look carefully at the budget breakdown. Sometimes they make simple math mistakes, and that's easily corrected. Or maybe they haven't provided enough information that's easily supplemented. Again, the idea is to not affect the gist of the grant, to change the direction in the grant, to substantively modify it. It can be clarified, but not modified. And then it's important that the grant applicants, if they attend the October 21 meeting, they have to limit their presentations to 2 minutes. We have to be strict about that because we've got 9 of them, and then we have follow-up questions, so we don't, I'm sure we'll have other items on our agenda at the meeting. We want to make sure we have time to cover our, some other business, some other Arts Commission business. Again, stress that it's important to know they can explain how they'll go forward with their grant if they receive less than the total amount. If any additional documents come in as a result of your conversation with the applicant, they need to be submitted to the Arts Commission. So each commissioner can see what's been added to the grant, what was missing, what was supplemented. And also, it's really important, you are not advocating for this grant. You're just the liaison between the grant writer and the commission. So we can't make any promises, we can't advocate for it. So the do-nots are, do not tell them that the funds will definitely be awarded. Suggest to the grant writer that the grant can be modified or rewritten. It can't. We can't modify it ourselves in any way. And we can't tip our hats in terms of letting them know or suggesting how we're going to vote for the grant. Okay, with that said, as I said before, we've received 9 applications. We have $25,000 to award, and the total amount requested from the 9 applicants is $55,095. So a little more than double what we have to give away. So in the past, for instance, in last year, we originally had 7. One of the applicants dropped out, so we had 6. And we were able to give each applicant about 80% of what they requested. And the year before, we had 8 applicants, and 2 of them were eliminated for various reasons. And we were able to, because of the 2 that were eliminated, we were able to give most of them 100% of what they asked for. So those are grants. I think it's pretty. You have a question?
Yes, I do. I don't know if anyone else has a question, but I do. So, Marcy, if when I'm, applying these contact protocol, that's for the mural that you've assigned me, and if I notice that there's a missing document, I have to tell them that they need 8 copies. Is that right?
Yes.
They have to. And by what date are those 8 copies going to have to be in? Because won't they go in the packet? Right.
So ideally, let's put a date for requiring the supplemental information if requested to 2 weeks before the next meeting, which would be October 7th?
October 7th.
October 7th.
October 7th, so anything has to come in, 8 copies of it by October 7th if it's missing. Okay.
Good point, thank you.
Yeah, and then I just thought you might want to clarify, because I know, I know I would need this clarification. I happen to know that the rec center is at Boyd Center at Sarzati Park, and I'm sure everyone else knows that, but I thought it might be worth saying.
Okay, that's good. That's where you go to pick up your folder with the grant applications. Thank you. And so I just wanted to tell you all now which grant you've been assigned.
Oh, we're going to get to know.
Yeah, the moment I know you've been waiting for. A grant was submitted by Focus on the Masters, Donna Granada. Robin Gerber will handle her grant.
She's not here.
She's not here. Smitty, I've given you two. I think they're pretty straightforward, especially one that's right up your alley. The Ojai Community Chorus for Smitty, and then Ruth Pastine. She's an individual artist. So those two. And then Nigel, I've assigned the Ojai Jail Arts Initiative to you, as well as a grant for the 30th anniversary of the mandala, submitted by River Savageau. And Christine Steiner.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can
Yes.
could I just ask? Oh, Eric's back. All right. And I missed a heap of this. I'm sorry. I just wanted to. Robin's not here right now.
Yeah.
Correct.
She picks
Eric's
up her
back.
packet. We have to get the message to her to pick
Christine's
up the
back.
packet. And it indicates in the packet which grant she was assigned.
Okay. All right.
Oh, here
Thanks.
she is.
There-
Sorry to interrupt.
There she is. Okay. Hi, Robin.
Yeah, hi, sorry.
So we were just talking about you, and I've assigned, Donna Granada submitted a grant proposal, so you will be handling that one.
Okay.
Okay. So Nigel, okay, you're doing River Savageau and the Ojai Jail Arts Initiative. Christine Golden will handle Ojai Performing Arts Theater, OPAT, Joan Kemper's organization. Eric, I've assigned the OYES to you, Ojai Youth Entertainment Studio. And did I mention Christine Steiner will look at Ray Powers' application. And I'm handling Brian Bemmel's Performances to Grow On. So I think that's everybody. When you're looking through, please keep the criteria in mind, but also look for any kind of other issues that something that we need to talk about. You can't really decide about the grant. You want to get input from the full Arts Commission on things like I mentioned. Christine will look at the fiscal receivers agreement that, to me, it's not clear if this is something that we want to use or not for various reasons, various things that were included that I don't know if it's a good idea. Things like that. Any issues that bring up any kind of interesting kind of twists on things that at first blush it technically might be okay, but there's some other considerations, policy considerations and all that, and we'll discuss those. So jot those down too. And also, as you're reading everyone else's assigned applications, jot down questions that you would want to ask the applicant when they appear before us in October. Smitty, did you have a question? I saw you. Maybe you're swatting flies or something. Okay.
No, I was trying to, Nigel was having trouble, and I was touching the,
Okay.
the
Okay.
chat.
I didn't want to miss you if you had a question. All right, so that's the grant discussion. Does anyone have any questions? No? Nigel, you're itching your head. I guess that wasn't a question. I don't like this Zoom. Anyway, okay, so that's that. And we'll move on to the next subject, which is the Public Art Committee report and some items that Christine will talk about. We'll go over. Number one would be the Public Art Committee met, and we have some adjustments we want to make to the Mural Ordinance. So Christine can talk about that.
Thank you, Chair Tosher. Can everybody hear me okay? Yes, all right, thumbs up from a couple people anyway. So I'd like to start out, and if you would look at your packet and turn to the section which is immediately following a copy of the 2014 Arts Commission 5-year goals. The very next section is the Redline copy of the ordinance. It looks like the printed copy didn't print out red, but that's the way it goes. But what I'd like to do is to explain one at a time each of the tweaks, because these are tweaks that we would like to make to the mural ordinance, and then stop and go around and see if anyone has any issue with it or comment or if there's any discussion. So the very first one, if you look at page 2 of 7 in the packet by the mural ordinance, this one is section 4:16-304, first paragraph. And it has to do with what we would call the group. Just a little background, Susan Amend made a suggestion that it really isn't a jury, and that she advised that we call it a mural review committee. And at our public art committee meeting, it also came up that possibly we could call it a mural review panel. And whatever the majority wants to do, we really would like to change the name because a jury is selecting among different public art projects, and clearly that's not what's happening here. And it just got by without anyone noticing it 2.5 years ago when we were working on the ordinance. So, Marcy, do you want to poll and see if anyone has a feeling about committee or panel or not changing it at all?
Okay, I'll start
If I
with...
may, if I may, though, before we proceed, and perhaps this is out of order, but I just wanted to mention that I'm a strong believer in legislative intent, and the mural ordinance as written and as such works for its purpose. And I think our preliminary question ought to be whether we in fact believe that we should make alterations to the mural ordinance, or whether we shouldn't simply let it remain in place and see how it works out, because it is a new ordinance and we have to assume that the council knew what it was doing when it enacted the ordinance.
Well, I'd like to respond to that. The mural ordinance came from the Arts Commission, and so what council approved was what we put out there, and we missed a couple things. And after the public art ordinance was passed, the committee that put that together went back to the table and did extensive revisions on it. It's very common that once you test something, that you just see things that don't make sense and aren't working. So we talked about this at the Public Art Committee meeting. It did not come up that we wouldn't present these changes. I spent a lot of time, and I want to go through them one at a time. And if at the end everyone agrees that we don't want to make the changes, that's fine, but I'd like to at least present them. And so the first proposed change is that we call it either a mural review committee or a review panel. And that's what the topic is to discuss, if anyone has any thoughts about that or comments on that. And I think, Marcy, you can...
Yeah, I'll go around. I'll start with Smitty. Do you have any comments, any observations? Any thoughts about that, changing the name to either mural
No, I
review
understand why you
committee or
want to go.
panel?
Somehow panel seems to flow off the tongue better. But I'm just a songwriter.
Okay. All right. Then Eric, do you have any opinion about that? Eric?
Panel sounds nice.
Pardon?
That sounds good.
Okay, so you're okay either way.
Yeah, I'm either way, honestly. Yeah.
Okay. Robin, your thoughts?
Well, I confess to being rather confused, frankly. First of all, there's a public art committee, which you obviously talked about this. So did the committee come up with a recommendation based on something? I guess,
Well,
I
You wanna
I
say
don't know.
more?
I don't like the idea of just kind of throwing, it feels like we're kind of throwing darts at a board. Yeah.
No, we're not.
So, well, it feels, I'm expressing my opinion, it feels to me like we're a bit throwing darts on the board. That's what it sounds like from the other two commissioners.
No,
I
it's
mean,
it's a decision between the name Public Art Committee or Public Art Panel. So I'm
yes,
polling
and when
to
you
see what
change
the,
legislation, as was just said, you don't just change legislation, you look at why that was put in there and how that came about. And we haven't been given any basis to understand.
well, the Public Art Committee did discuss it and felt that it was more, either one of those names, one might be more appropriate than others, personal preference, but that it more clearly described what the function of the jury was, because it's not really a jury. It's not selecting from among different proposals. It's checking criteria, either the mural meets those criteria or doesn't. It's a very simple question, so it's not really a jury.
Well, in the context of, I know how we understand jury like watching Law and Order. In the context of art, frankly, I would need more education to understand that term. That's what I'm saying.
Okay,
So
then I'll take that as an abstain. Unless, Christine, you want to give more
I don't
information
like
to make it
being
more
cut
clear?
off.
called on
Madam
Nigel.
Chair, it's your role to encourage us to have a discussion, not to cut off discussion. And I'm simply saying that I'd like to understand better.
Well, okay,
I'll
do you want
handle
to
it.
explain? Okay, Christine will explain.
Yeah, well, but
And I
I'd like
keep
to
getting
hear
cut
from
off,
everybody.
man. I just,
what their
again,
thoughts on
object
this,
to
and
the
then I'll-
idea.
I'll
You know what,
being
let's-
cut off when
handle
I'm
it.
speaking.
Okay, let's continue polling everyone, and then Christine can explain, and there can be discussion. Nigel, what's your preference?
Yeah, I'd just like to hear what Robin's got to say at the end of it, and then I'll respond to whatever she says. So if you can please just go back to Robin so she can finish her thought process. I think I know where she's going to end up with it, but I think she's got a right to say it.
Then I'll give it to Christine to explain.
Well, Robin, I'm sorry. You're the only person I'm having a hard time hearing tonight, and I didn't hear your question.
Well, let me try to crystallize it.
No, it's a hearing. I couldn't hear it.
Okay. When you change something that is legislation, which this is, that we're all, all supposed to follow, then just like kind of anything else in life, we look into the history of it and how it came to be. And the difference between those two words, to me, and I readily admit I'm not an art expert, I'm not familiar with art juries. Frankly, it was the first time I ever heard the word jury in relation to art. So therefore, asking me suddenly like this to make a decision between those two words without an understanding of why this one word was chosen over the other or any other words feels like throwing darts at a board. That's all I was saying.
Okay, Christine,
So
do you want to
I'm
address
not sure that was a question for me to answer.
Well, the question is, what
I
is the
understand. I
legislat-
think I understand what you're saying, and I'd be happy to give a little more history. Do you want me to give that history before, Nigel, before you make a comment on this?
I'm happy to jump in now.
Okay.
Right, so we've had a bit of an issue with the arts, the Mural Ordinance, haven't we, in the past month or two, and that's all down to interpretation. And it seems to me that language is always really, really, really important, and the difference between committee and panel is quite substantial in my mind. Panel is a small group, an informal group that's pulled together, whereas committee is appointed by somebody. I would be loath to change the name of it simply on the basis of that, but I too would also be interested to know why we need to change it and where this has emanated from, because obviously it's come from the Public Art Committee. So perhaps if you can enlighten us with that when I've finished, that would be good. I don't think this is an issue of sounding nice or not sounding nice. I think language matters, and we've seen this just in the last few months. So that's what I have to say on the matter at this point, but I do reserve judgment for a little bit later in the conversation.
Thank you, Nigel. So I think what I'm hearing is that my introduction was somehow not clear. When the mural ordinance was written, we looked at the whole committee did look at the information that was provided by Maudette Fink. This was information that she had put forward back in the early 2000s. And in her, and those notes were left for me, and I reviewed those notes along with the other research that was being done about mural ordinances. And in one of the paragraphs, Maudette Fink suggested that it be called a mural review committee. Another suggestion she made was rejected, and in the process of rejecting it, we also missed carrying over her suggestion that the mural review committee be the name. And because we were using the model of involving as many members of the public as possible, I just sloppily adopted the name of that kind of a group. And that was from the Public Art Ordinance, and the name in there is Public Art Jury. So it's sloppiness on my part that it ever got called a Public Art Jury. Susan Amen brought it to my attention during the jury meeting. She said, you know, Christine, Maudette Fink said it should be called a mural review committee. It's really not selecting among different art objects. Why don't you change it to mural review committee, which is what it is. So I said, I love that. I couldn't agree with you more. I'll bring it up at a Public Art Committee meeting. So the Public Art Committee met, and I brought it up. And all three of us thought it was a good idea, that it was much more accurate to call it a mural review committee. And then later, Christine Steiner, Commissioner Steiner, emailed and said that she'd been thinking about it, and she thought panel was a better word than committee. And since the Public Art Committee wasn't meeting again, I said, well, let's ask all the commission to say, what do they prefer? If they agree to change it, what do they prefer? Mural review committee or mural review panel? So it's the reason for the change is because I was careless in what I put forward. It was not accurate for me to have said it's a public art jury. It's confusing. And that's what we're trying to correct. These are little tweaks to the ordinance that don't make sense and are confusing. There's nothing major here to change. So the question
If I
around the
can-
room was, which do you prefer, or neither? Do you want to keep it as jury, or do you want it to be mural review committee, or do you want it to, Christine's suggestion is mural review panel. Whatever the majority decides is fine with me, but I'd like to make a motion that we accept one or the other of these names, and I couldn't tell moving around what was coming out ahead, panel or committee. Do you know?
If I may, Marcy, can I just jump in for a second
Okay.
there? I do apologise. I forget to add jury into my diatribe. And I don't think jury is an accurate reflection of what it is. I also don't think panel is an accurate reflection of what it is. It's appointed by the Arts Commission to do a job. So if you're going to change it, my vote would be for committee, not panel, not jury. But honestly, we're spending way too much time on this.
Yeah, I agree. Smitty, you said panel?
I said panel, but my first choice is spend less time.
Okay,
I'd just like to hear what the committee should have picked one.
okay.
Just told us.
Eric passed. Christine? Steiner?
Yeah, I didn't pass.
Eric didn't pass. Eric said panel.
I
Or-
said
You said
panel.
panel. Oh, okay. Christine?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to say at the outset that the Public Art Committee was not unanimous. It's my view, as I said earlier, and I maintain that the mural ordinance is perfectly fine the way it is, and sending something back to council feels like a waste of our time as well as a waste of the council's time. That said, In the committee, I was obligated to make some choices as I was outvoted. And so, as between jury, and by the way, jury is perfectly appropriate in the arts context. So, for example, often there are juried exhibitions, or there are juries that are assembled in order to make a determination at an exhibition. So it's not an unusual word. That said, if there is an insistence that we proceed with changes to this, then panel is more appropriate than committee, in part because, as Nigel said, it's not permanent. It's empaneled specifically for this purpose, and it's often used. So, for example, construction issues will have engineering review panels that may look at issues, or exhibitions may have review panels. And so I would say, for avoidance of confusion, assuming we must do something, that panel is preferable to committee.
Christine?
If I can just jump in there on Christine, it sounds to me like Christine doesn't really want to change the name, and if that's what she wants to leave it as jury, then I'm perfectly happy to leave it as jury.
Well, this is news to the Public Art Committee.
So I think that panel is the majority, and so I would like to make a motion that we
Just the majority from who?
alter the name
But-
of the jury
but
to
I-
review panel. So I'm making a motion on that.
Second?
Well, can we have a motion to change the name before we have a motion to change it to something?
He said, can we have a motion to whether or not we're going to change the name at all before we decide what it'll be?
That's implicit in this motion. If people don't want to change it, they're going to vote no, right?
No.
No, that's not a choice.
I will withdraw my motion, and I will make a new motion. Is that correct, Louise? Is that what I do? I
It was
withdraw my
never
motion
seconded anyway.
That we change the name, for the sake of clarity, from Public Art Jury to Mural Review Panel.
I second.
Discussion?
All right,
So was that?
discussion? Okay.
Yeah. Again, I think panel is an informal group. It does have an end date typically on those things. I don't like it simply because it's informal. The Mural Ordinance is a formal piece of legislation, as Robin likes to say, and I don't think that we should devalue that by using an informal term for somebody that we're impaneling, or a group that we're impaneling, which is in fact a committee. But honestly, my vote is just to leave it the way it is. If we got to choose between two words, leave it the way it is.
Okay.
Okay.
Roll call.
Okay. So with that, we'll go ahead and we'll say Commissioner Chisholm.
May I sorry, but I don't understand what is precisely the motion.
So the motion, as I understand it, is to change the name from Public Art Jury to one of the options as presented.
No, that's not what I moved. I moved that, I'm moving that we change the inaccurate name Public Art Jury to Mural Review Panel. It was very specific to change it to Mural Review Panel.
Well, I don't. Hang on a minute. I don't think the word is inaccurate. It's just misperceived.
So we're going to.
Well, I thought you withdrew your motion and you made a substantive.
I did. I
sub-
withdrew
Yep.
the motion to change the name to Mural Review Panel, and instead I made the motion to change the name Public Art Jury to Mural Review Panel.
Okay. So with that,
So let's just vote on it, and if it fails, it fails. Let's go.
Let's move on. All right,
okay.
roll
Well,
call.
Okay. So Commissioner Chisholm,
No.
Commissioner Steiner,
No,
Chair Tosher,
No.
Commissioner Golden,
Yes.
Commissioner St. James Lopez,
No?
Commissioner Gerber,
No.
Commissioner West.
Aye.
Motion defeated.
And you have to say who voted.
Motion defeated.
Okay, absolutely. So with that, noes, Commissioner Chisholm, Commissioner Steiner, Commissioner Gerber, Commissioner St. James Lopez, Commissioner Golden voted yes. Commissioner Tosher, from my understanding, you voted yes. Is that correct? Correct.
She voted
And-
no.
No, I voted no. I voted no.
Nope, my apologies. And Commissioner West abstained, if I got that correct.
No, I said I, which was a yes, I guess, in English.
Okay, so his was yes. So,
Four noes
so
and 2 yeses.
correct.
Okay, you've got
Yep.
who did what. All right.
Yep.
Fine, then we will be leaving the name public art jury in place. All right, the next change is section 416-305 findings, and if you look down to D, paint, you'll see that we would like to eliminate.
Is Christine's microphone not on?
I'm sorry?
Christine,
Turn your mic on.
is your microphone on?
Thank you. All right, if you would please look down to section 416-305 findings. D, paint. We would like to eliminate the words that are crossed out there, meet a minimum light fastness standard of 6 to 8 on the American Association of Textile Chemists and Colorists blue wool scale, and simply say, all paint must be durable and suitable for outdoor application, and the rest of the language would stand. And I'm going to give the background on this. This language about the blue wool scale was added by a staff liaison person who was no longer with the city and who made several adjustments to the mural ordinance after I had worked on it relentlessly with now city manager James Vega. And we missed this. This was another one where we just missed. We found a lot of the changes that we had to take back and put the way they were. But this one we missed, and indeed it makes no sense. I understand that the textile chemist blue wool scale has nothing to do with paint. I was told that. So we just like to take that out of there. And I'm going to make a motion that we remove the crossed out language. And we need a second.
Second? No one is seconding it?
You can second it, Marcy.
Second?
Second.
We have discussion?
Do we have any discussion?
Well, I would on this motion also renew my view that we should simply leave the ordinance alone until we see how it plays out for more than one occasion.
All right. Christine?
And I say that, oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't finished. I say that specifically with respect to that paint scale because that can be waived if it's inapplicable. And that's what was done last time. It simply was waived, and I think that can go on.
Excuse me, Commissioner Steiner, it was not waived last time. When the jury met for the mural, it was not waived. And
Well, it was
it's very
addressed,
possible we're
correct?
going to have another mural application, and we'd like to tidy this up. This is what we've done in the past. When we find, after we've used a document, that we made a couple errors, we clean it up as soon as possible, because it takes a long time. It takes a couple months before this will get to City Council and be approved. And in the meantime, we could have another mural project. And instead of always waiving the things that were, you know, you can all, I was sloppy. I'll take the fall for this, that I didn't catch it. You know, there was just so much going on with all the changeover. That's my excuse, but I was sloppy. And so I'm asking you all to give me permission to go back with these simple tweaks and clean up these just obvious things that need to be eliminated. And I've made a motion, it's been seconded, and if there's no more discussion, I would call the question.
There is, excuse me, there is discussion. Are you going to go around and ask who wants to have discussion? I'd like to say something.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, Robin.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I just want to be clear about some words being used here. It is not, Commissioner Golden, your ordinance.
Could you speak up a little louder, Robin?
It is not your ordinance, Commissioner Golden. It's our ordinance.
Absolutely, that's why I'm asking for your input. I agree.
Right. Okay. So you refer to it as yours. I understand your feeling of ownership, but we have to make I don't like the feeling, again, that we're being rather rushed by what is, I understand, your idea of how this should go. I want to say that I'm very grateful to have Commissioner Steiner on this commission. Because again, I am not an expert on art by any means, and she absolutely is. And so on something like this, I don't even know what blue scale is, honestly. Raise your hand if you do among us. And yes, right. Commissioner Steiner does, exactly. And so, frankly, I believe in following the experts, as you know, we've been hearing in lots of contexts these days. So that is my opinion about it.
Okay, thank you. Smitty? Do you have a comment?
Comment or question? No, I don't.
Okay. We know you're, Nigel? Comment?
Yeah, if you've got a stone in your shoe, you don't want to be walking around with it for too long. And once you take it out, you can probably still feel the stone in your shoe. I'm not sure this is a stone in your shoe or it isn't, simply because I, like Robin, don't really understand it. The main part of section part D of this would seem to me to be all paint must be durable and suitable for outdoor application. The rest of it is just gobbledygook to me, quite frankly. And so I don't know that I'm in a position to understand whether we should remove it or whether we shouldn't. I don't meet a minimum lightness standard of 6 to 8 on the American Association of Textile Chemists and Colorists.
Well, that we don't-
I'm literally I'm reading it right now while I'm
Yeah,
trying
well,
to find
it
out
doesn't
what the blue
apply.
scale
It
is. And
relates
I'm
to
reading it. I
text.
still don't understand what it is. So I presume what this is saying really is that it must be lighter than it is darker. And you can't have too many dark colors, otherwise you make everything too dark. So if that's what it's saying, I'm kind of okay with leaving it there. If that's not what it's saying, and it's saying something completely different, let's get rid of it. So can somebody please explain to me and everybody else what on earth we're talking about here?
Eric?
Thanks.
Yeah, I think that what Robin's saying, I agree with, and what Nigel just said about, I don't understand what blue scale is either.
That's why it needs to be removed.
Well, I'd like to know what it is, just out of my own curiosity.
Well,
And I do agree, though, that, yeah, I think that paint must be durable, and I agree that it should be suitable for outdoor application. I mean, I agree with that. Yeah, Christine Steiner, can you explain what it is to us? Sounds like you know what it is, maybe.
Okay, so could we call the question on this? The motion is to remove that area of paint that is not applicable to murals.
I didn't make my comment.
I'm not sure I had the opportunity to respond
Go
as
ahead.
we were going
Have
around.
some new information for us?
No, I don't have no information, nor do I think it's my place to interpret the language. But my observation is simply that, as I said earlier, I don't think we should be changing legislation. And I think we need to keep in mind that there's the potential that when legislation goes back up for review, that it could come back as mincemeat. And I think we have seen that the mural works. Let's give it a little more time and see if we indeed need these tweaks.
Okay,
I
thanks. Well,
have just a question.
Nigel, I'd like to say something, and then I'd like to take a vote and move on. I was at the jury. I was a member of the mural review, the mural jury, and one of the members, an artist, a couple of the members, artists, agreed that this related to color fastness, color steadfastness, or whatever it is for textiles. That's what all that gobbledygook was, relating to textiles. I don't think we'll ever see a mural just putting fabric on the wall. So murals are usually painted. So I think it gives the most flexibility to say that it be color fast, it wears well, it's outdoor paint, that kind of thing covers it. And then it gives enough flexibility to do that. They felt that the standards that were in the mural were irrelevant, really ridiculous, and they didn't even understand what they were really. So it's something that needs to be changed, and
And what Marcy is
No.
saying is why we talked about it at the Public Art Committee level, was because this came directly from the mural artists themselves, that it is not applicable, and why not take it out?
yeah.
So that's my comment.
I got a quick one, real quick one, because I've just educated myself while we've been yakking about this, and it is adopted, and Christine Steiner can probably tell us more about this over a glass of wine at some point, off camera. But it was adopted by the printing industry, and from what my concern is this, and honestly, is if we got rid of this language, and I'm neither supporting it nor against it. If we got rid of this language, does it mean that we could have murals all over town that are black and dark blue and brown and dark green? Because it seems to me that what this language is saying is that it has to be a certain brightness or lightness, and that lightness must remain in the mural because of the durability of the paint. And my concern would be, if we got rid of that language, do we lose control over the colors or the type of palette that murals
May
would
I
be?
comment on that, Nigel? Because it's a
Please, yeah.
misread of the word light fastness. What this is referring to is how durable it is in the sunlight. That's what's meant by light fastness, not what colors are being used, but how durable the paint is in this particular area that was added by a past staff liaison person who took it off the internet, and I didn't catch it, and it does not relate to paint. It relates to textiles. This was said by mural jurors. It was confusing to them that it was in there. And so the Public Art Committee talked about this, and all three of us agreed that this would be better to be eliminated. And so I made a motion to eliminate this, and I think it's time to call the question. I think we're
I
spending
have
way too
one
much
more
time on
comment,
this.
Yes,
actually,
I
that
think let's move on. Let's
Marcy, I have
Call
one more
question.
comment, please, from what you said and also what Nigel said, which made me think there's going to be lots of kinds of murals coming. There's solar murals now. We haven't seen them in Ojai, but we're going to. And so there's going to be lots of different kinds of materials that are going to be used. My guess is that we're probably going to have to come back to this and look at all this again. So, you know, I'm not happy about changing something where so many of us feel confused. I don't like doing that with legislation, but also I think we're going to have to look at a lot of this going forward, of materials in different ways.
I'm calling the question for the vote.
Luis? Yes?
Yes.
Can't hear.
Commissioner Chisholm,
I abstain.
Commissioner Steiner,
No.
Commissioner Gerber,
No.
Commissioner St. James Lopez,
No.
Commissioner West.
Abstain.
Motion defeated.
Motion is defeated.
Abstentions are counted as no votes or yes votes? I would like a clarification on that.
I think
They are
no.
counted as no votes.
No.
Okay. So that we will not be changing that either. All right, so let's move on then to the next item that we discussed at the Public Art Committee meeting, and that is on the next page, page 3 of 7, the very first top of the line there where it says H copyright. And we realize that this is in the wrong section of the Mural Ordinance that was put in there by the attorney, and we didn't catch it. And then Christine Steiner, Commissioner Steiner, asked if she could make a presentation about this even having anything in the Mural Ordinance at all about copyright. So I'd like to turn it over, as I said I would at the Public Art Committee meeting, to Christine Steiner to discuss this particular item.
Thank you. So I think the most important thing for us to keep in mind is that murals are on private property and they are private rather than public art. So it's entirely private, and really the purview of the mural jury is to essentially act the same way as the planning commission or a zoning committee would with respect to whether your hedge is too high or whether the paint color is right or is wrong. It's a very limited review. In that context, and again, I emphasize that I would not send this ordinance forward to the City Council for any revisions at all. But if it did go forward, the question of copyright seems inapplicable because it really is not the city's place to take any sort of copyright license in the context of making an approval of a private project on private property. The city can, of course, utilize fair use, the same as any other entity, but it does not seem appropriate to use its police power, as it were, to garner any sort of copyright license.
Thank you. And if I may, I think the intention behind this was so that the city could go ahead and utilize photos to go ahead and promote any artwork that was out there. So as an example, the Ojai Valley Imports, so that the city could go ahead and take photos, utilize it to go ahead and promote that mural. I think that was the intention behind this. So by removing it, it may put it could potentially put the city in liability if it were to be removed. That's one thing I'd have to go ahead and say.
If I may reply to that, when the findings came forth and the owner spoke, he said he'd be delighted to allow the city to use images. So it really is the copyright that's owned by the artist, because copyright subsists at the moment of creation and it is owned by the artist, presumably licensed to the owner who said yes, that it could be done. And the city would be appropriate to obtain that sort of permission or to use it as a fair use. And to specifically address Luis's question, if the city did that without the artist's permission, then indeed the city would open itself to liability, and it well should, the same as any other infringer would be open to liability.
But the city would ask permission.
But the city would ask permission. And again, I realize we're spending a lot of time on this, but I think there's no harm, no foul in leaving it, because the city will ask permission.
Okay, so that's an interesting change of position from Commissioner Steiner, from what was said at the Public Art Committee, and I'm glad to hear that. Now the question becomes, do we leave it in the findings section?
I don't want to belabor the question,
please.
but
Excuse me, I'm talking, Christine. So the question now becomes, do we leave the copyright, H, in the findings? Because that's not where it goes. The copyright is not a finding of the jury. Or can we pull it out and put it in a different location? So I'm going to make a motion that we take H and have the attorney put that in another location so that it is not one of the findings that the jury is being asked to comment on when they deliberate. Because this is another area that the jury, when it met, said, what are we supposed to do about that? And that's when we realized that it had inadvertently been dropped in the wrong place. So I move that we have the attorney take that copyright language and move it out of findings. And I need a second for that.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay. Any more discussion?
Yes, I have a question. I don't understand. Can the city attorney simply move something without having it go to city council?
No, I believe it then goes to city council.
clear.
Is that correct, Luis?
That is correct, yes. So whatever changes the commission wishes to make, or recommendations that the commission
Right.
wishes to
But
make
we're
to
not
council.
moving
Correct.
tonight to have it go to city council. We're only moving to have it go to the city attorney with any changes that are agreed upon. So far, no one is agreeing with any of the changes. You're happy to leave it inaccurate. Okay, you're the majority, that's fine. This one, and there's one more, and then we'll be done with this. So can we call the question on this and take a vote? Is it okay to ask the attorney to
Well, I
reposition
wouldn't
this
object to
in
a bit
another
of discussion
spot?
about it, to be honest.
What, Nigel?
I see the value of leaving it in there. I don't see the value of taking it out at all. I don't see the value of opening the city up to litigation just because somebody had given permission and then they withdrew it, and that the city would still be using it on the website. I see a heap of problems. So I'd prefer to leave it in there. I don't think it hurts anybody. I think Christine's right. The city will ask, and they would ask, and they should ask, and if they don't, I wouldn't be very happy about it. And it should just be moved to a more appropriate place. But in the end, if we don't move it, it's still in there, and it's still part of the ordinance. So,
Right.
I think we should move it to where it makes sense.
Okay.
But if people don't want to do that, leave it there. That's great. But I'm definitely not in favour of removing it. That's for sure.
No, that's not the motion anyway.
I'm just making an observation, Marcy.
Yeah, all right. Moving along. Okay, call the question. We'll take a roll call.
Okay. So we'll go ahead and begin with Commissioner Chisholm.
Can you read the motion again, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So the motion was to go ahead and move H, or to have the city attorney move H and put it in a new location in the ordinance. H is referring to copyrights.
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner West,
No.
Commissioner Gerber,
No.
Commissioner St. James Lopez, Commissioner St. James Lopez, I think you might be on mute.
I just froze. I don't know if anyone saw that. I'm going to, because my internet connection is unstable. I'm going to say no.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Once again, please.
No.
Okay. Commissioner Steiner,
No.
Commissioner Golden,
Yes,
and Chair Tosher.
Yes,
Motion defeated.
you have to,
Okay. Chair Tosher.
motion fails.
you have to
Yeah,
read.
Chair Tosher, yes. Commissioner Gerber, yes. Commissioner.
Okay.
Gerber was
Said
no.
no.
Sorry, I apologize. Commissioner Golden, yes. My apologies. Commissioner
Brown.
Gerber, no. Commissioner Steiner, no. Commissioner St. James Lopez, no. Commissioner West, no. Is that correct? Okay, and Commissioner Chisholm, no.
No, he voted
You
yes.
voted yes.
Commissioner Chisholm was yes.
Yes, my apologies. I got this. Sorry. The way that's displayed on my screen, you guys are right next to each other here, so
Okay,
my
well,
apologies.
it's a little, squirrely. The last thing was, I'm sorry I skipped it, it's on the first page, page 1 of 7, which I have now lost, 1 of 7, here it is. And I forgot about this, and that is that we also, and this is the section 416-304, so page 2 of 7. And this is the second paragraph as well. And this was something that really, really did affect what we were doing when we met for the Mural Review Committee. So I hope that you're going to approve this one because it really affects everything. And it was a mistake, again, a mistake on my part. And we would like, this is what we agreed to at the Public Art Committee meeting, that instead of having just one artist, it would say 2 artists. And the representative of the commercial building merely attends the meeting and presents the report. They're not a voting member of the jury itself. That is a mistake that was made that we would like to clean up. So I would like to move that we change the composition of the mural, of the public art jury to 2 artists instead of 1, And as you see in the crossouts there, a representative of the commercial building who has submitted the mural application shall attend the mural review meeting. When I need a second, because I made that a motion.
Second. Okay, discussion?
I would just note again at the outset that it really wasn't unanimous from the Public Art Committee for the reason that I had said at the outset that I didn't think we should really have any changes at all. And then we proceeded with the changes and I did weigh in.
Okay, I've heard enough. I was at that Public Art Committee. We spent quite a long time there. We spent a few hours discussing this, discussing
We
the
did.
fine points, and agreeing on what we wanted to have changed. Never do I recall, I don't know about you, Christine, ever Christine Steiner mentioning that she didn't want to bring any changes
Agreed, Christine,
forward to
to
the city
everything that
council.
we said.
So that is a total misrepresentation. I wanna put that on the
I said at the
record.
outset that we could leave it as it is. Nevertheless, let's
You
proceed.
never said that, Christine. You never said we can leave it as is.
I
We
don't
never
think we
had
want to
that
have a
discussion.
fight about what happened at
No,
the
but I
Public
just wanna
Art
correct
Committee
the
meeting.
record. I just wanna
Marcy,
put
you
it
and I
out
were
there.
there. We know that this was agreed to. So let's just
I think
leave it
the
there.
public
Let's not
needs to
have
know as
an
well.
argument about it.
Okay, fine. So, discussion about the motion on the floor. Nigel?
I have nothing to add to what's already been said. Thank
Okay.
you for asking that.
Okay. Eric?
Well, I guess I wasn't in this meeting that's being discussed, but I also think it's okay that, if anything, maybe let's assume that Christine Steiner, recalled incorrectly. It's okay for her to change her opinion if that's what happened. I don't know what happened. I'm gonna believe. I don't know what to believe because I wasn't there, but I'm willing to hear what Christine Steiner has to say now, and believe her with what she says. And I don't understand why it matters what she said then if what she believes now is different.
Well, we wasted a lot of our time then. Smitty?
Do I understand what you're saying is you're just adding an additional person to the jury?
Oh, no, it isn't Smitty. It's replacing.
I can't hear you. You got to turn on your mic.
With another artist, so there would still be 7 members. Oh, I'm sorry. No, Smitty, it's not adding a member. It's replacing the building owner, who really shouldn't be voting, with another artist. So it still remains 7 members, but the building owner should be there to make the presentation. Now, we went ahead with it because we knew we'd still have a majority of 4, even with 6 jury members, because really the building owner should not be voting on his own project or her own project. So we just went, again, all of this are just careless mistakes that were made, and we want to get them fixed as soon as possible. It's a long process. It has to go to the attorney and then come back to the Public Art Committee and then come back to you with any adjustments the attorney has made before it ever goes to City Council. And we could have another mural ordinance, and why we would let it sit with careless mistakes, I go along with you, you're the majority, but I really am having a hard time understanding why you don't want us to correct this, why we want it to sit and not be corrected when these are just obvious, careless errors. This always happens. We've corrected things before immediately as soon as they were found. No problem. Just want to say that, and then I think you all hear me, and I think you hear my frustration. I spent hours working on this for you. It's not my mural. It's business. It's yours, and it should reflect correctness and common sense. And your vote tonight has been not to reflect sensibility and common sense.
Not have
It's to reflect a
editorializing,
position
Madam Chair?
that was not taken at the Public Art Committee meeting. It is brand new to me to hear that this was not 100% agreed on by all 3 of us. That's all I'm going to say about it, and I'd like to call the vote on whether or not we're going to correct the mistake I made
We have not
It
all
should not
spoken.
be
Would
the building
chair
owner
please
on the jury,
control
and we
this
would
meeting?
like, we talked about, do we want a second community member? Do we want a second artist? And I didn't call it. 2 other people called that it should be an additional artist.
I have
So
not
that's the
spoken.
motion, that we change that language as the red line shows. And it's been seconded or not?
Chair,
It's been
please take
seconded.
control of the meeting. You seem to be very willing to cut off everyone else, Madam Chair. I'm not suggesting you cut off anyone, but I have not spoken.
Oh, I'm sorry, we haven't finished discussion. Go ahead.
Correct.
Go ahead, Robin.
First, I am. First of all, Commissioner Golden, I hope you can hear me. I will speak louder. Again, this is not your ordinance.
I didn't say it was, I said it was yours, all of yours.
And please don't interrupt me.
I
We all
will
heard
correct
what
you if you
said.
misquote me, Commissioner Gerber. Don't
We have
misquote me.
order.
I will
Order,
interrupt and
please.
correct you. I did not say that.
This is a problem with this commission, that we can't have order. This is not any one person's ordinance. It is the commission's ordinance. And if there were sloppy mistakes made, perhaps it was because there wasn't a group actually working on it. And that could be something that we need to look at. But the idea that this is one person's sloppiness, I don't accept either. If it was, I don't know, it doesn't matter. This is legislation. You know, I worked I hate to say it, but I did work in Capitol Hill. I did write legislation. When legislation is in front of me, that is kind of a sacred thing. So I get it, that this does look like a mistake, but then again, I can't be sure. And even if we're correcting it, should we be correcting it by adding a second artist? Or perhaps a playwright? Or I don't know, you know. Again, once a mistake has been made, you are asking us, Commissioner Golden, and it is you, it feels like, alone asking this, generating this, to change something that feels to me like it really needs more thought. And if another mural comes up, that could be unfortunate, but you know, they used to say on Capitol Hill, making legislation is like, you know, making sausage and putting it through the grinder. It is long and slow and messy. So I just don't feel prepared, honestly, or well enough informed to say that this change should be made.
All right, are there any other comments? Smitty?
Yeah, I'm trying to separate the wheat from the chaff here. And I always like to come down on the side of the business person. That's not always, but I mean, I don't remember. I guess this happened before I was there, and I can see an argument where, you know, if I'm a business person, I'm putting up, say, 10 grand for a piece of art, you know, I kind of want to have a seat at the table. I got to live with that thing. I got to pay for it. There maybe this wasn't a mistake. I'm just trying to see it on the context of the wording that's here before us, and taking a citizen's right away and giving it to an artist, an additional artist. I don't know. I think it's more than it looks like it might be a little deeper than just a mistake, with due respect to all the Christines.
Can somebody explain to me why the building owner, on just the basis of what Smitty said, why the building owner shouldn't be there? Christine Golden, can you explain that to me?
Can someone explain why the building owner shouldn't be there? He will be there. Why the building owner wouldn't be there?
Why he
Would
should
not
be
be there.
replaced by an
You're asking
artist?
why the building owner would not be there, Nigel?
Why he shouldn't be there?
He is there.
Removing him.
The building owner, he or she, would be there. They would be there making the presentation, but they obviously already are a yes vote. So adding another member of the community to vet what's being done and to match it against the findings makes sense. At least it made sense to 3 people in the Public Art Committee level, and we brought it forward to you to say, can we make this adjustment so the building owner is there,
So
or a representative of the
I
building
understand.
owner,
You're
making the
suggesting
presentation
the building owner
and
shouldn't have a
and
vote
giving all the
because-
reasons why the jury should let it go forward to the Arts Commission for approval. But we thought it would be great
I-
to have one more member of the public be able to vet the process.
Nigel, what were you saying?
Yeah, now listen, I just understood what you said. Thanks very much for that. I understand Smitty's concern. And I understand why, in the context of what you said, Christine, the building owner shouldn't have a vote, but should be able to make a presentation. Clearly, he or she would be a yes vote, because they're the ones that are ponying up the money to get the mural done in the first place. So I do understand in that context, to Smitty's point, why shouldn't they? I think that pretty much answers that, unless Smitty's got a different point of view on that. I think the language there, an artist, I don't typically have a problem, with artists. It's such a wide framed word that it could be anything.
Yeah.
Heck, people even think I'm an artist. That's just because they're crazy or just not very good at judging what an artist is, perhaps. But we're spending a ton of time on this, and
I know.
I get the point
Yeah.
why the building owner should not have a vote, and I would support that.
Okay, great. Eric?
Well, yeah, I like what everyone else is saying. I think personally, I think that the person who owns the building or whatever should have a say. That's me. Also, I think that it seems to be really important to some of us that what other people have said in meetings, and I'm just throwing it out there as an idea, but maybe we should have meetings transcribed or recorded or something, so we can go back to what was said if it seems important to people, or if people would agree to that. So we don't come into this arguing over who said what. Anyways, I think this has come up more than once. So anyways, that's all I have to say.
All right, any other comments? All right, we'll call the question. Roll call vote.
Okay.
Please, Louise.
Okay. We'll begin with Commissioner Chisholm. I think you might be on mute, Commissioner
Yeah.
Chisholm.
Why don't you repeat the question, please, Louise?
The motion.
The motion, yeah.
Sure. The motion is to have 2 artists instead of 1 and a representative attend the meeting. So with that, again, we'll go to Commissioner Chisholm.
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner West?
I'm sorry, if I vote no, I agree with what I said, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And for clarity, is that a yes or a no?
I'm sorry, I wanted to leave the building owner on there for now, so I think that's a no. Is that correct? I'm sorry. Would someone help me here?
Yeah,
Correct.
that's correct.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
So for clarity, your vote is no. Okay. Commissioner St. James Lopez?
I'm gonna abstain from this one.
Okay. Commissioner Gerber?
No.
Chair Tosher?
Yes,
Commissioner Golden?
Yes.
And Commissioner Steiner?
No.
Okay. So with that, the motion is defeated with Commissioner Golden, Chair Tosher, and Commissioner Chisholm in favor. Commissioner St. Lopez abstain, and the rest as no's.
okay, thank you.
Okay, moving right along. The next section is the application, which is tied to the mural ordinance. But since all of the corrections to the mural ordinance have been defeated, it would be a waste of time to go through the mural application, because obviously those would be defeated as well. So I'm going to skip that, and I'd like to go on to the second Public Art Committee report, if that's okay with you, Chair Tasher.
Yes, please.
Okay. Give me just a second here to, to find my agenda. Here it is. Okay. All right, so the next topic is the Mural Ordinance jury selection process. And I want to begin, because of some of the things that have been said, to talk to all of you about the process that was used. It was a 2.5-year process. It went through 3 different art liaisons, city council back and forth, attorney back and forth, over and over and over again. There was debate on every single word of the mural ordinance. These things that I just brought up were things that we missed in spite of that. It was discussed at the Public Art Committee level. It was researched and debated. When it first came forward from the liaison at the time, the commission made all kinds of changes to it, which was fine. It went back, went to the lawyer. This went on for a long period of time. When it went to city council, they debated it again and asked for several changes to be made, which were made, before we finally all came to conclusion, and the mural ordinance as is was adopted. So this is not my mural ordinance. I was figurative in it because I'm the chair of the commission. Please forgive me if I've ever said it's my ordinance. It's not. It's the arts, it's actually the city's mural ordinance. And the idea that one person created it, or that there wasn't discussion on every aspect of it, is simply not the case. Now, having said that, the same thing is true for the jury selection process. So before we make a decision about this, because this was asked to be on the agenda, I want to review for you what it was we discussed over the course of those years when it came to coming up with a selection process. And what we considered for the process. First, we saw no need for different processes for different projects. And this may be a poor analogy, but you can imagine if you paint your living room, you're going to do some prep. And if you paint your bathroom, you're going to do the same prep steps. So we didn't see any reason ever to have more than one process for selecting panels or committees or juries. The second thing for the people at the time, and it's a different set of commissioners and mostly different Public Art Committee members as well, the words nominate, appoint, and select to us at the time all meant the same thing. It meant that the commissioners submit nominees to the Public Art Committee, and the commission provides qualified members of the public. That's how we interpret those words, that regardless of what it is we're looking at, that there are qualified members simply because they came from you. And we look at you as all being equal. None of your nominations are more valid than anyone else's. That's how we look at it. They come from you. You have perhaps contacted members of the public to get those names. That's perfectly okay. And I'm going to interject here a last word on what I believe was mischaracterized to Attorney Summers. If you send me an email that says Jane Q. Public nominates Mary Jones, that's not your nomination, and I can't accept that. And an opportunity was given to correct that. It was turned down. So you make the nominations, and of course you can talk to the public about it. That was never the question. Next, at the time, the Public Art Committee and the Commission had an underlying basic assumption that any name given to the Public Art Committee was equal to any other name, as I just said, because the ranking of all commissioners is equal. We saw harm in ranking in public the name of public persons that, first of all, had no idea they would be discussed in public, in a public forum. And we tacitly agreed all nominees, being of equal standing, they would go to the Public Art Committee, who would do the job of playing mumbledy-pegs with those names until they came up with a slate of people who were available. This time that didn't happen. It had to come back at a special meeting, and an individual who was unavailable, his name was printed in the paper, he contacted me, he was so upset that his name was in the paper, he had no idea why. That's what happens as a result of not allowing your public art committee, not trusting the integrity of your public art committee. We are not trying to pull anything here. All we pledge to do is to do our, pardon my French, the damnedest to give every single one of you a voice on that committee, and that is exactly what we did do. So, for expediency, the PAC was given authority before to select the slate. There was no need to bring it back, which would delay a project for an entire additional month. And in the case of a mural, that means the building owner is having to wait for maybe at least one more Public Art Commission meeting, if not 2 or 3. Because if people aren't available, are we going to keep bringing it back and keep bringing it back and keep bringing it back? Next, we did talk about the idea of a pool of nominees. That was one of Maude Fink's suggestions, and we rejected it. We felt that it was best that nominees fit the project under review. We also knew from experience that the more public we involve in these projects, the more ambassadors we have out there. So we rejected the CAPA model, which was 3 commissioners on the arts, 1 Historic Preservation Commission member, and only 1 member of the public. And we just felt, especially now with murals, that there should be a heavy presence of the public vetting these pieces of art. They're so, that this is in the public interest is what that commission felt and that public art committee felt. This was all discussed at length. We also use this process now 2 times. We used it for the paint box project, and we used it just now for the Ojai Import Mural project. And it was 100% successful. We have got nothing at all, except positive feedback from all concerned. It works. It works. The only thing that didn't work was the part where the newspaper published the panel that had not been confirmed, and it was upsetting to a member of the public. So I don't know what you're going to tell me to do moving forward. You can change this. The majority of you can change this. You can decide that you really want to talk about these people in public. I don't recommend it. I recommend that we continue with the process that we have used before. And that's my report.
Is that your motion?
No, I'm not making a motion. I just gave a report on the history of this because it didn't happen. We didn't pull it out of a hat like a rabbit out of a hat. There was much discussion about it. And this is what your previous commissioners, who are very smart, very well-positioned people, the previous commissioners, this is what they decided how it should work. We didn't see any reason that we would have to go back and change all of that. But if you guys want to have it changed, tell me how to do it, and I'll do it the way you want it.
All right, I see Robin's hand. Robin?
Yes, thank you. First of all, Commissioner Golden, I want to say we all greatly appreciate all of the work that you have done. But again, none of us are looking at it being just you. Neither should you look at it as if it is just you.
I never said that. Please stop saying things I haven't said.
Okay, please don't interrupt me, and I'm listening.
I will, if you misquote me, I will interrupt you and correct you for the record.
This is a 7-person commission, and whatever was done in the past, was done, I hope, in a way that was collegial, and I hope that's what we are going for. And there's a lot of I being heard. That is what I'm responding to. But again, we very much appreciate all of the work that you have done. The motion I would put on the floor is simply that that the Public Art Committee go back and write out, and this is not in the ordinance, this would just be a protocol for how this actually works, because how picking these juries, panels, whatever we're talking about works. Because, for instance, in this case, here's what bothers me. I feel this was done in a way that was elite and not inclusive, and certainly didn't help us get more diversity, which I think we should be trying for, including the indigenous community. Having a commissioner told that he couldn't put it on Facebook, which I thought was the most brilliant idea. I wish I had thought of it. Not taking recommendations, being told you can't take recommendations from other people. So this is why I think we need
That's not what happened.
Well, okay. Please let me finish. The point being that we need a protocol for what I would like to see as the most inclusive process that the Public Art Committee can come up with, because what you said is absolutely true. Every opportunity we have to involve the public with what our work is exactly what our mission is, as stated in the ordinance that created this commission. This was a chance to bring in new young artists who come to town, and artists, BIPOC artists, as we say, and feel free to correct me if I get any of this terminology wrong, but I am bothered that we not go beyond the usual suspects and hey, I love our artists and I love the jury. If any of you are listening, I love you all. You're fantastic. The jury was great. My only point is I really would love to see us, and we are charged with being more inclusive. So I would move that the Public Art Committee go back, come up with protocols for the actual steps for picking this panel or jury. That's my motion.
All right, discussion?
Could I just respond to Robin?
Can I have a second? I need a second first, Nigel.
I'll second that.
Thanks.
Shock.
Would you repeat the motion, please, Marcy, so I don't understand what the motion was?
That the protocol for jury selection for the Mural Ordinance be referred back to Public Art Committee for refinement and,
No, there are no protocols. We need actual protocols written. All that I might call a protocol would be an email we got from Commissioner Golden. I would like us to have there are protocols, as we all know, for City Council, and this is a perfect opportunity, it seems to me, to have some protocols for just how this would get done. For instance, reaching out to the community in the most inclusive way through social media, for instance.
I will second Robin's motion.
Okay, thank you.
I second as well.
Yeah, I think it was already seconded.
I
discussion?
just want to say I agree.
Did you have a comment?
Yeah, I want to second it too.
I want to third it.
Eric?
Hey!
All right, who wants to go? Nigel?
No, can I?
Comment.
Yeah. I think many of the issues that we're dealing with over the past number of months are due to some confusion over language. And this issue in particular, with regard to the Mural Ordinance, I think is rooted in how things were done historically, but nothing was ever written down. And I know that I've advocated to have things written down in the past to various people on this commission, because I think it makes sense. Because if you have something written down, you got rules to follow and nobody could ever question them. So given that we have committees on this commission, and given that this commission gives authority to those committees to come up with ideas to refer back to us to say yes or no, I don't see any problem whatsoever with creating a protocol on the Public Arts Committee to come back so that we can approve it. And I would fully expect that when something comes back, it would be unanimous from the Public Art Committee, simply because I don't think this stuff's rocket science. I would ask Robin, you don't have to respond, I just can't think of a different phrase for it right now, is that in the last situation, we all had the opportunity to nominate a bunch of people. So if one feels, not you, Robin, it's not directed at you, I'm trying to be very general here. If one feels that there was a lack of inclusion, then they had the opportunity to resolve that with the names perhaps that they put forward. I, I know in my own case that I'm limited to the people that I know or am aware of. And what would be nice would be to have my view expanded somewhat by perhaps, as Robin suggests, reaching out in different manners to the community. I see a lot of danger there as well, that we can be avalanched with people who want to get on a public art jury. I don't think it's going to happen that often, but I can see downsides of it. But I would like to have the scope of people that I would consider to be significantly wider than what's sitting inside my own head. So that's my comments there.
And don't worry, Nigel, I never take anything personally.
I am guilty sometimes of saying you when I mean one, right? So I apologize for that.
I would like to comment on the motion. I think it's a good idea to have it written down. I've asked for that in the past. As I've said earlier, we've not had unanimity on the Public Art Committee, and I do hope that we can come to a reasonable process. Responding to two of the points Christine Golden made, the first is that no prospective juror should have been embarrassed. That is, each of us should have asked in advance of those we were going to recommend to be sure that he or she would have been interested. That would have taken away that issue. I want to remind us that this is a new ordinance and it's not public art. That is, it's not city-owned art, it's private art. We have a very limited jurisdiction, a very limited purview, and it is not necessarily reasonable to follow what was done when we were acquiring public art that the public, that is the city, owned. It's an entirely different system. One of my main concerns about the process used last go around was that each of us had what was called a pick, quote unquote, which meant we could only have a recommendation within one of the categories. And I think and again, assuming this motion passes, it will be for the committee to make a determination, but it seems sensible that we would all recommend a number of people who would in advance agree, of course, and that be considered a pool or a standing committees. People can be added, people can be removed, and then that would be the pool from which there could be a selection. But this individualized picks seems to be very problematic. And so those are really the only points I wanted to make, but most importantly, that this is not the city's art, this is private art.
Okay, thank you. Nigel?
Well, I've already spoke, but as it turns out, you must have seen my hand moving to unmute myself.
Oh.
I don't necessarily agree. I understand everything Christine said, and I don't disagree with most of it, although I don't agree with all of it. And what I wouldn't agree with at this point, without delving into it a little bit more, which I'm happy to do offline with anybody who wants to have that chat, is to have a standing commission of people, because by its nature, that appears to me to be exclusionary. Now, you did say that you could add people and take people off. I see issues with that. There's also people going to leave town and people who are going to die as well. So it would naturally refresh itself. However, I personally like the idea of convening a jury whenever we need it, because then we really do get an opportunity to evaluate and look at a lot of different people in different scope. And whenever you have a group of people that as a block, it seems to me that's when stasis happens, when people stop thinking, oh, we've got a group of these people, let's just pick from them. Now, I could see an argument to be made perhaps where if somebody's been on a public art jury, then they're not allowed to be on the next one. So then you can completely refresh that list every time. But I don't know that that's any different in principle than just having a different list every time. But I appreciate the conversation and I'm open to more.
Thank you. Eric? You have some comments,
I don't
thoughts?
think I have anything else to say.
Okay, and Smitty? You want to comment?
I'm coming. Here I am. Yeah. There was. It sounds like from Christine Golden, we get a lot of the history of how we got to where we are right now, and I'm very proud of the presence of art in Ojai. But the commissions change, and our advice is to give it. Our job is to give advice representing the public to the council, and it just seems with the current makeup of this commission, there's just everyone wants a little bit more, or the majority wants a more of a structure. So I don't think you could go if the committee morphs again in the future, the commission, the Arts Commission morphs again in the future to be something that's a little more willing to kind of go with the flow. It's not going to hurt them to have some nice processes put down. So I'm all for. Because I don't even see anything in my packet. It's showing me what the current processes are. So I'm all for having some processes, and so I'm inclined to support this motion.
Okay, everyone had an opportunity to speak.
No, I didn't.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, so I just want to say I think that this is a fabulous motion and that we should have the process written down. I do want to clarify that the committee will not determine the process. The committee will discuss options and bring them back to you, at which time you will all have input into it, and it will be a decision of the entire commission as to what the final process will be. So I really appreciate, Robin, your making this motion and asking for this process to be clarified. And had we written it down before, it could have been passed out, and it would have been very, very helpful this time around. And I agree with everything everybody said, and especially I want to comment on what Smitty said. This is a different group of commissioners, and I totally agree that we need input from fresh blood on what this process is. And I think that that's much more likely to happen now that you know the history and what the positions were that that your former commissioners that you followed took. So I'm thrilled with this.
Okay, great.
Let me just say to clarify, the motion should say that the Public Art Committee will return with a written protocol for this process, and then exactly, Christine, Commissioner Golden, we will, as a commission, then discuss. But I just want to be clear that you should come back. My idea, and I think the way regular order would dictate, is that you would come back with a draft of what these would look like.
Yes,
and then we can,
absolutely. I'll second that revised motion, Robin.
Yeah, not for us to go through each little line item,
right.
All right. Okay, we'll call a vote.
Luis, would you read the motion, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So the motion is for the Public Art Committee to go back, write out a process to bring back to the commission for review, and the process would be for the selection process.
Sorry to ask you to do
Public
the
art jury.
But would you read it once more, please?
Sure. That the Public Art Committee go back, write out protocols, for the selection process, and come back to the commission with those protocols for review.
Thank you.
You want to include the words selection process for the mural jury. I'm sorry, what's it called?
Mural,
That's missing in there.
yeah. The Mural Ordinance jury.
Yeah.
So with that, we'll go ahead and do a roll call. Chair Tosher,
Yes?
Commissioner Gerber,
Yes.
Commissioner Chisholm,
Yes.
Commissioner West,
Yes.
Commissioner St. James Lopez,
Yes.
Commissioner Steiner,
Yes.
Commissioner Golden.
Yes.
Motion passes. Oh, yes.
Okay, in the third report from the Public Art Committee is on the Ojai Valley Imports Mural Project. So this should go a little more smoothly, hopefully. And first, I want to tell you that the mural jury met at City Hall on Friday, August 13th at 10:30 a.m. to vet the Ojai Valley Imports mural, which is titled Places in Ojai, Compass Points. And 20 to 30 members of the public attended, including John Long, who is the former Imports mural owner, and Bob Kemper, who is the real estate agent for the sale of the import shop. Several members of Ojai studio artists and other Ojai artists as well all attended. It was really a full house. It was wonderful to see that kind of interest, even though I would comment that it was probably due to a negative article in the paper that had been incorrect, a negative article in the paper. But nevertheless, everybody left so happy once it all unfolded. Each of the 5 artists were also in attendance: Christine Byrne, Gail Childress, Spark Taylor, Rex Kokel, and Bruce Graben. The jury included Marcy Tosher, who represented the Arts Commission, Cindy Convery, who represented the Historic Preservation Commission. Ray Powers had a selection. He represented Public at Large. And then we had Elizabeth Herring, Lisa Cassoni, and Cassandra Jones, representing artists and art professionals, and J.R. Luna of Ojai Imports wasn't there. He was out of town, so Susan Amon represented J.R. and presented the mural in the background to the jury. The Arts Commission received the unanimous recommendation from the jury that the mural met all requirements of the ordinance, such as plans for anti-graffiti coating, durability of the paint, insurance provided to the artists that none of the limitations were in play, such as political messaging or business advertising. And then on Wednesday, August 18th, there was a special meeting of the Arts Commission, and those in attendance unanimously ratified the jury's recommendation to approve the mural ordinance. The jurors were each sent a thank you note. I don't know if one was included in your packet. I asked that one be included in your packet for their service. And I will tell you that jury feedback and community feedback has been 100% positive. I also received an email from J.R. Luna, who was absolutely delighted with the process and everything that had happened and how quickly we were able to move it along. The next steps for this are, when the mural is completed, there is an approval process that takes place, and we also have to clarify with J.R. Luna the copyright clause that we brought up earlier that is part of the mural ordinance that is in effect for this project. Also, we're working with Community Development Department to be sure that any messages that are given by CDD on murals are crystal clear in terms of when the painting can begin, because that was not clear to J.R. Luna, and the painting had begun before the mural process was underway, so we want to make sure that that gets straightened out. And then we have a little surprise for everybody, little delightful, very short video that we're going to show you, and Luis is going to put that up now.
Is this complete? Is it finished?
I can't hear you.
Is it finished?
And there you have it. So that is a overview of what the mural looks like recently. I do not know if that's finished at this point, because there are postings on Facebook and on the Ojai Imports website that regularly post progress on the mural. But I was unable to determine whether or not the mural has actually been finished. I encourage all of you to drive by and actually to drive through the Ojai Imports parking lot after 5 o'clock when the doors come down and you can see the mural before the sun sets. So you have a little time before daylight savings time sets in, and you won't be able to see it at 5 o'clock at night. But it's really fun to go over there and take a look at it live. It's colorful. It's, to me, just quintessentially Ojai. And again, the public is listening, and I just want to give a shout out to all of the jury members and for their service and their volunteerism in helping us get through this process. And so that, unless you have questions, I am done with public art reports, but I'd be happy to take any questions on the imports mural.
Okay, then, we'll move
It's-
along to.
It's not a question, it's an observation. It's not too far from where I live at. And it actually looks fantastic. Those images do not do it justice at all. But whomever did it, thanks very much for doing it, because it gives us all an idea. That's Eric, I'm guessing, from the smile on his face. Thank you for doing that, if it was. No, it wasn't you. Oh, okay.
Thank you,
but it does
Nigel.
look fantastic. If you haven't gone and had a look at it, please do. I don't know if it's finished or not yet. I suspect not. But it's really very cool. If you remember the previous images that were on those doors, they were really great too until the sun got to them. Now we're back to the blue wall scale again. So let's move on. It was fantastic. So, yeah, go and have a look. This is what we do, people.
Yeah,
Well
those
done,
doors
everybody.
previously were done by the artist Otley Kidder, and they had faded over time, and that was under John Long's watch. So it was really interesting that John Long appeared at the jury meeting. It was really nice to see him there, and that he was totally in support of what JR had done, which was to paint over the Otley Kidder murals and then to work with OSA. And also, I should mention for the public to hear this too, that JR Luna is donating scholarship money to the Ojai studio artists as part of, in addition to paying the artists, as part of this project. And so that's important to note that JR did that.
Thank you. All right, next item will be the municipal collection discussion. Christine Steiner. Christine, are you still there? Christine?
I apologize.
Okay, you're
I'm-
next
I'm
up
here.
to discuss municipal collection.
Yes, thank you. So I'm bringing to you just 3 very small items. The first is for a name change for what's called municipal collection, that instead it be called the city collection, because municipal is sort of a weird word and it's really the city's collection. It flows better, it feels better. And it's also consistent with what's in legislation. So if you would agree, we would change, and I'm not sure it actually calls for a motion and a vote. I think it's simply that we can agree that that's what we are going to call ourselves, since I don't think we moved to call ourselves the municipal collection. So with your approval, we shall be the city collection. And then in terms of this committee, that it would be called the collections plural committee, because there are many collections within the collection. There's drawings, there's prints, there's sculpture, there's paintings. And so typically museums have collections committees within the overall museum collection. And I think that would be consistent and would feel better. But tell me this, is a motion required? I can certainly put forth a motion if that's necessary. Luis?
Yes, in this case, a motion would be needed.
Okay. Therefore, I move that the name municipal collection be changed to city collection.
I second. Okay, discussion? No? All right. Roll call.
So we'll go ahead and begin with Commissioner Golden,
Yes.
Commissioner Gerber,
Yes.
Commissioner St. James Lopez. I think you may be on mute.
Sorry, yes.
Okay. Commissioner West,
Yes.
Commissioner Tosher,
Yes?
and Commissioner Chisholm.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Do I get to vote on my motion?
My apologies, Commissioner Steiner. Yes, my apologies.
No, yes, yes.
No.
Okay.
Motion passed.
Thank you all. The next, in your packet, you have the face page.
What about the commissions thing? Do we have to change the commissions thing?
Collections Committee.
Do we have to vote
Collections. I'm sorry.
on calling it the Collections Committee? What do we currently call it? The Municipal Committee? Anyway,
Yeah, so it's Acquisitions Committee. If I'm not, no,
No, it is currently called, I have my handbook right
I've
here,
been
the
calling it
Municipal Collection
Acquisitions
Committee.
Committee, but I don't think that's what it is.
Yeah.
is it the Municipal Collections Committee? Is that what you said, Chair, Commissioner Golden?
Well, let me double check. I've got it right here. Because that would be on our committee pages, right?
Correct.
All right, let me look. It is listed as the Municipal Collection Committee in our chart.
I move that we change it to the Collections Committee, plural.
City Collections Committee?
Well, that wasn't my motion, but
Okay.
if it makes it easier, maybe we should just do that. Because we can then distinguish between public art, which also is owned by the city. So let's call it the City Collection Committee. That is my motion.
Okay, second. Discussion? Okay, roll call.
Okay, so Chair Tosher,
Yes?
Commissioner Gerber,
Yes.
Commissioner Chisholm,
Yes.
Commissioner St. James Lopez,
Yes.
Commissioner Steiner,
Yes.
Commissioner West,
Yes.
Commissioner Golden.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes, all yes.
Thank you all. The next item relates to 29 old loans. So these were loans of works on loan to the museum for storage as well as security in an earlier time. You'll see, looking at the face pages of those loan agreements, that it identifies the work. And also in the upper right-hand corner, there is a flag that identifies the current location. Many of these works, in fact, are in chambers. You can see them. I don't know if we have the ability for Zoom to pan around the room, but you'll see that many of these loans are, in fact, in the chambers itself or are in other city locations. So this is merely a cleanup matter. It should have been addressed earlier. It wasn't. And so those are what I called old loans because they have been revoked by the very fact that the lender, the city, has taken those works back, although we have not terminated the paperwork. So this is simply to terminate the paperwork, both to tidy things up and also because California has what's called an old loans statute. And under old loans laws, a museum can take possession of a work after X number of years if it sort of remains in the possession of the museum. And so for that reason alone, I want to make sure that we tidy this up so that it is clear that these loans are terminated. Now, I was of the understanding that this can simply be done by the Arts Commission because these loans were signed by Michael Addison and by other art commissioners. But Luis, am I to understand that staff has concluded that there's some different process for how these loans are terminated?
That is correct. It would be a recommendation to the city to go ahead and terminate the loans in this particular case. I don't foresee any issues in terminating the loans as described. So it would simply just be a recommendation to the city to go ahead and terminate the loans.
So I move that we recommend to the city, and Luis, is that the city council or is it the city manager?
That would be the city manager. In this particular case, it would be a decision city manager could go ahead and make.
Recommend to the city manager that these 29 old loans be formally terminated.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
Yes, these loans were made for the benefit of the museum. Do they have any voice in this?
Well, really, Smitty, they were made for the benefit of the city. That is, they were placed at the museum for both security as well as storage. And we should at this point thank the museum for handling those as they did. They still have in storage some works, that is, there are extant loan agreements for works that have not been taken back from storage. So really it was for the lender's benefit, that is for the city's benefit.
And it's not considered a foreclosure?
Well, it's a loan and the lender can terminate the loan. And as we can see from looking around chambers, the city has already terminated the loan by retrieving the items.
Yeah, all of these items are in the city possession right now, right? They're in City Hall.
That is correct.
So we have a bunch of these for stuff that the museum still has in addition?
That's correct.
Okay.
And those
Do-
loans are ongoing.
Do we have a log, Commissioner Steiner, so that this doesn't happen again? Thank you for doing this, by the way.
Well, I mean, I think, we should thank Christine Golden also because she's the one who put those flags on to identify the current locations. But I think we would watch with a bit more attention, shall we say, to assure that when works come off loan, that there be notice that the loan agreement is terminated.
Yes, I guess I'm sort of, go ahead, Nigel.
Sorry, Smitty. If I'm to understand you, there's no protocol in place to ensure that these works of art are returned to the city after the loan agreement expires. Is that right?
No, it's actually the opposite. So the city as lender takes back the work and then terminates the agreement. That's what should have happened here. So these works were taken off loan and placed in a variety of city-owned properties. And at that point, we should have the city simply should have issued a 30-day notice to terminate the loans. That's what typically happens with loans.
I understand that, but when we loan them out to the museum, then there's an end date on that. Is that correct?
There should be. I don't know whether these were indefinite loans or whether we extended beyond the term. Typically, if there's an extension beyond the term, though, there's sort of a renewal clause.
Yeah, I mean,
they
this
look like
just
they're indefinite.
concerns me.
They
Sorry,
look
Smitty.
like they're indefinite, and the borrower had to provide insurance. So I just wanted to make sure for the same reasons you mentioned, Christine, that the museum seems to have some right by law to take things that go beyond a certain date back themselves. I want to make sure that we're just friendly with the museum.
Well, I think the museum would be in agreement, of course, because it knows that it has been dispossessed of these objects. And so when the object returns to the possession of the lender, it doesn't give the museum any right. That's especially so here because it wasn't an exhibition agreement, it was a storage agreement.
Mm-hmm. Sure. They may be, I mean, I don't know how their insurance is figured out, but I would think they give a list to their insurance company or the underwriter about what's in possession, that sort of thing, with an amount next to it. I would think they would want to know to be able to remove that. Maybe it saves them money.
I'm sure they know when it was returned. I'm sure they took it off their insurance. They may have a blanket insurance that sort of covers everything without individualizing it. But I'm sure it knows that once the work returned to city possession, that city is responsible for covering the insurance.
Yeah, I think I may not be being very clear, so I apologize for that, and I'll try. Or maybe I'm just a bit thick and I haven't heard what anybody's saying. But are there pieces of city-owned art in the museum right now? And if so, are they covered by one of these loan guarantees? And if the answer to that is yes, do we know when those expire, in order to address what Smitty just said and what you said earlier on, Commissioner Steiner, was that at some point the museum could claim them if we're not on top of this type of thing?
Right. That's a good question. There are existing loans. I can get back to you at next meeting with the termination dates if there are termination dates. I do have a list of those loans. That's how we were able to tell, in fact, that some are old loans and some are existing loans. But I can get back to you with the termination dates to make sure we're on top of that. And
None of these have termination dates, so I might expect that they would not either.
yeah, my recollection with and I don't have them in front of me, but my recollection is that they seemed to be indefinite.
Our house seemed like a dream come true.
Which is the
I'm sorry,
reason
Christine, would you repeat that? There was some noise in the background. Your recollection is what?
is that they do not have an end date. And that makes sense because they're not exhibition loan agreements, they're storage loan agreements for the benefit of the city.
Mhm.
So I'll double check that. I'll get back to you and see if those have.
Sure. And for instance, if we wanted to take, I'm looking at one here, Bristol Horace applying for relief. If we needed storage again for that, we would have a new agreement, a loan agreement, I guess. And
We would have
perhaps,
a new, if we sent that Horace Bristol back again to the museum for storage, we would have a new loan agreement with a new start date.
Mhm. And maybe we want one that's a little tighter, in your opinion, than what we have now, these open-ended ones.
It's a museum form, and it's not a bad form. It's a pretty standard museum loan form. I don't think we would need to noodle it too very much.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Christine Golden, you might have some information to share regarding this.
I would like to enter the discussion for a minute here and just say that, then this is a little history for everybody and for you, Commissioner Steiner, that I'm pretty sure that when Michael Addison and Linda Harmon, who were the ones that launched this situation with the museum so that there would be an appropriate place to store the city collection, that the idea was that the paintings would go back and forth, that sometimes some of those paintings would come and be on display and other times they wouldn't. And I don't know, Christine, if you want to look into this, but one of the things Linda Harmon did was that she sat over at the museum and she entered each of these paintings into a program that the museum uses to track their collection. And so she entered our collection into their software program. Do you remember the name of it?
Past Perfect.
It's
Past Perfect. It's a program called Past Perfect. And I don't know if those records still exist, and perhaps Director Barker needs to be advised that those records also should be updated. I don't know if they're official or legal or whatever, but I just remembering that now and wanted to share that additional information with you as you pursue this.
Thank you. I mean, one thing that would happen, of course, is that when notice is provided that these loans are terminated, that they should and will be removed from the museum's collection system.
Yeah, and as I said, I don't know if that's happened or not.
Well, I assume it hasn't happened because we've not formally
Right, probably.
terminated these loans, which is the additional reason that it's so important not to have any confusion here.
Right. So if it was done, it would just simply be because Wendy Barker was aware of which paintings we brought back. And by the way, those paintings are all here, displayed now at City Hall. And not just paintings, also some of the three-dimensional pieces as well. I'm looking at 2 of them right now on the fireplace.
For clarification, there's sculpture, there's painting, there's print, there's photographs, there's a variety of works. And yes, that would be a part of the tidying up.
Just to clarify for my own sanity here, these works that are at the museum are not actually on show. They're in storage?
They're in storage, that's correct. Again,
Okay,
this structure was more for the benefit of the city than the museum. The museum.
so
is
it
not
would make
storing it.
sense. Sorry, it would make sense to me.
But
to
let
have
me
an end date
interject
on these
because
things.
in talking with Wendy Barker, she did tell me that there were plans and that in the past, some of those pieces were included in the front lobby as part of a particular display. So I don't know if the agreement says it, Christine, because I was, never really on that committee. I just took on organizing it before you were appointed. But I do believe that some of those paintings were displayed in the front by the museum as part of a display, and that was part of the agreement, was that might happen. Not sure, I don't want to vouch for it, but that's my recollection.
But that's all, it's likely not relevant at this point because the works are back in the possession of the city. But I don't think that got to your question, Nigel. Yeah, I should note as well that some works in the city collection are at the hospital. And those are
I'm aware of
pursuant
that.
to loan agreements as well, on loan.
Yeah, I've got one question and just one observation, then I'll shut up. The question is, how many pieces of art do we actually own as the city? And secondly, the observation, it would seem to me to make sense to have an end date on these types of loan agreements. If for no other reason, then firstly, we may forget they're there. We clearly have. Secondly, it would encourage the city to rotate the city art that they actually have on their walls.
Nigel, a
agree.
complete listing of what's in the collection is in your handbook under item number 9, municipal collection.
Right.
I should probably
It's
look
listed
there.
right there, every piece.
But I certainly agree with you that we should have end dates on loan agreements. I think that makes a great deal of sense for all sorts of reasons. And we know that the end dates on these 29 loans has passed by virtue of the fact that that we have possession of the works.
I wonder, Christine, if there's a way to word our agreement such that we could rotate and at the same time give them permission to display, but maybe when they do display, they have to say it's part of the city of Ojai, the city collection of Ojai. I don't know, might maybe give some flexibility all around.
I do think that's something we can look at for the existing loans. I don't think we want to do that with these works where, again, they've been terminated by the very fact of the retrieving by the city.
Maybe give us a chance to start anew with them if we get
Yeah,
tired of them.
I think that could be a possibility if we find that we want to engage in a loan agreement again in the future.
I just counted 43 pieces.
So, any other questions?
Okay. We'll do a roll call. Do you want to
Chair?
repeat the motion?
Asher?
Yes, so I will go ahead and repeat the motion as requested by Chair Tasha. The motion is to make a recommendation to City Manager to terminate the loan agreements for the 29 pieces which are displayed at City Hall.
How many pieces?
29.
Is that how many there are,
29.
Christine? Christine, is that how many there are?
29 loan agreements, that is correct.
Okay, great. Okay. The roll call, please.
Okay, so that, Commissioner Steiner,
Yes.
Chair Tasher,
Yes.
Commissioner Gerber,
Yes.
Commissioner West,
Yes.
Commissioner Chisholm,
Yes.
Commissioner Golden,
Yes.
Commissioner St. James Lopez.
Yes.
Motion passes. All yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our third item relates to professional art handling. And while I think we can all agree that we're grateful to Marcy Tosher and Christine Golden for taking out their tack hammers and their painter's tape and deciding where works go in city chambers. And by the way, the hanging looks lovely for those of you who have seen it. It's things look very good. There's wall labels, so things look good, but in fact, it's not the right way to proceed with a collection that's owned by the city. We should.
Excuse me, Commissioner Steiner, that is not agendized. So you could discuss that, but we can't really take any action on it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was the third point. Okay.
No, that's not, that was not on the agenda.
Oh, well, never mind all. This will come back to you another time. I
Okay,
didn't know
that's
that it was
fine.
not on
Thank
the
you.
agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. The next topic of conversation is Arts Commission 5-year goals. So I'm really happy that so many of you are interested in taking this up and getting this accomplished. So tonight is not to actually discuss the substantive 5-year goals, but to figure out when we can have this, when logistically we can have it, and then to kind of discuss whether or not this is a Zoom situation or we meet in person. I know that in the past, the Arts Commission took the occasion to meet off campus. It was about half a day, and the last 5-year goals that were established was in 2014, so we're overdue for these. We also need to decide, what structure will it take? Do we want to use a mediator, which has been recommended, that was used in the past? Facilitator, yeah. Facilitator to handle this, and then when do we want to schedule this? It was recommended that perhaps it's best to have the most visibility and to do the 5-year goals as on a regular commission meeting date, and just devote the meeting, which could run into 3 hours or more, to discussing 5-year goals. So I'd love to listen to your thoughts on that, and at least at a minimum, come up with a date to do this, and then take it from there. I also just wanted to read to you very quickly. I think is it in their packet, the 5-year goals, the previous?
Yes, it is. So
Okay,
the
then I
5-year
won't
goals are
take
2
the time
pages.
to read them. Why?
Good.
No, I'm not going to read them. If they're in the packets, everyone can read them
Correct.
at their leisure. You'll come up with your own ideas and all of that. We have time to think about it. So I'd like to hear what everyone thinks about prospective date. Do we do it in lieu of a regular meeting? When would it be? I do want to say that the next 2 meetings are pretty much committed to grants, which occupies some time. Next month, we're going to hear from the grant applicants, and then the following month will be discussion when we actually award the grants. So those are usually fairly long meetings. I don't know if we want to, dovetail a 5-year goals meeting next to that. So I'll just go around and we'll take your thoughts. Smitty?
Yeah, I'm glad we're doing this. I was involved a lot in this kind of thing in the corporate world. It was almost always done in a different setting and with all the little tactical things put aside, because the frame of mind for doing long-term planning is a more creative process rather than a tactical functional carrying out of it. And what I'll further add is from the plan should come, from those, from that 5-year, I'm sorry, what are we calling it? 5-year goals?
Yeah.
5-year goals should come a plan, and
Plan.
budgeting and that sort of thing. And we should use that as a tool. It should be almost up at every meeting, making sure that what we're doing and proposing is in line with what we decided at these retreats. So I'd be in support of doing it, whatever off-site means, but I've just gone to Zoom meetings since I've been here too, and definitely with a facilitator, and I happen to know a very good one too, that can guide us through that. Thank you.
Okay. And I'll go, Robin?
Yeah, I was one of the people, at least, who proposed this. I think some of the issues on this commission have to do with not having clear strategic goals. So there's no reason that this has gotten delayed, frankly. We can do it on Zoom, certainly. We've all learned how to do that really well. And I agree with Smitty having a facilitator, and we need to get it underway, and we can't keep pushing it aside because of grants or whatever else. This is critically important, and we need to act that way and act on it.
Eric? We don't hear you.
I agree with Robin on that. I can do most days. I guess I could do it on a weekend as well. I don't have anything else to say. I think that it should be reviewed because it's coming up. So the 5-year point anyway.
All right, so you're open to doing it on the weekend, a weekend day?
Yeah, or weekday or weekend. I just would want some notice so I can tell my place of work.
Okay. Nigel?
Yeah, I don't think anybody on this commission is going to be against getting together to organise a meeting to have a 5-year goal put in place, and I really appreciate Smitty saying that it's the goals need to be turned into plans. I'm just scanning over this list of 13 things from 2014. And I'm struggling, and I don't mean to insult anybody in any way, shape, or form, and there's certainly a big hole in my knowledge, but I'm struggling to find out what on that list has been done effectively or efficiently. I just see a lot of things aren't. I mean, there's little point in having goals and plans if you're not working on them on a monthly basis and moving toward them as a group in a positive fashion. So I have been banging on this for quite a while, that we need to have. This is 3 years out of date. We all know it. And there are extenuating circumstances, of course. We know this, why this hasn't been done, from new commissioners to COVID to any number of different things. But it does need to get done. What nobody has said up to this point is when they want to get it done. I would suggest, respectfully, that we look at this in January or February, and that's what we do in January and February. Because then we can devote a heap of time to it. If you've not been through the grants process before, it does take an inordinate amount of time. I'm willing to devote whatever time is necessary to create a 5-year plan, and then really get a lot of push behind it. But I would personally like to see it pushed until January and February, not January or February. And so we can have a good shot at it. Smith is exactly right. This stuff is typically done outside of the normal venues. I'm not a fan of Zoom. I think it would be beneficial to all of us to actually look each other in the face, even if it's from a 6-foot distance, and say hi to each other. I think it's too easy to create distance from Zoom. So that's pretty much my observation. Yes, we need to do it, but I don't think that, in my opinion, we should be forcing it into this last couple of months of this period, when we certainly will not be having a meeting in December, as is the norm, unless anything crazy crops up. So yes, I want to do it. Yes, I want to bang on with it. And yes, I think we should just go hell for leather in January and February.
Okay, great. Christine Steiner?
Yes, thank you. I'm likewise eager to get going on this process. I think it's enormously important. I do think it should be put off until January and thereafter. In terms of Zoom, we're now more than a year and a half into the pandemic, and I think we all are comfortable with Zoom as a process. I'm on the board of a foundation. We entered into a exceedingly ambitious strategic plan done on Zoom with a very strong facilitator who did a lot of the advance work that was necessary for the group to come together. So it is entirely possible that we could begin the process earlier by engaging a facilitator who can begin to get familiar with us, with our goals, with what we need, and then we can come together. And whether it's in person, let's hope that public health situations will permit that. But if not, I can say from experience that undertaking this process by Zoom was rewarding and it accomplished a great deal. The last point I would make is that, and I think any facilitator would tell you this, that we have to indeed be committed to our plan. It troubles me a bit that we're so far behind on the plan, but that we have to be able to come together and work collegially toward a single goal and to want to have that change that could be brought about by these goals that would then result in a plan that we can all be that we can all share. I think it will help guide us going forward.
Okay, thank you, Christine. Christine Golden?
Well, I am in total agreement. I've been pushing for doing 5-year goals for a long time. As far as whether it's Zoom or in person, I would prefer in person, but I wouldn't object to Zoom. I'm so happy to hear several of you mention the use of a facilitator. I think that's critical to have a facilitator work with us. And I very much like the idea of getting this date somewhere in the January, February timeframe so that we can start the 2022 year and have a really clear idea of what it is we're doing for the public and for the city moving forward. That's all.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion. Then let's keep the motion.
I might want to add that in the corporate world, and I heard Christine Steiner say, strategic plan. That was more like the words we would use, and that plan would contain 5-year goals and 1-year goals, that sort of thing. So I don't know if it's we would entertain 5-year plan name change to strategic plan.
Could I comment on that? Because this is part of the ordinance that we do this, and so the name is in the ordinance that we would have to use. But I would ask if Luis could clarify for us by finding out from council just exactly what they mean in the ordinance by saying that we should write 5-year goals, and they do call it 5-year goals. So I don't think that we can on our own change it. I think we have to go with what city council, we're doing this on behalf of city council. And I understand we will be having a joint meeting. We used to have 2 a year in the old days, but because of COVID, they weren't being held, but we will be having a joint meeting.
Yeah, I'll talk
coming
about
up
that later.
fairly clear soon. And perhaps we can get further clarification from city council at that time as to what they mean when they say we're supposed to write 5-year goals.
Okay, great. All right, would someone like to make a motion then?
I think
that
the
we
facilitator can
approve
help
the
us
timing?
with that, of course.
What was that?
I said, and of course, the facilitator can help us with that.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Then would
A
someone like
motion there, or what are we doing?
Yeah, can you make a motion, Smitty?
I don't have one. Let's just
I'll
schedule this and
make
do it.
I'll make a
All right,
motion.
go for
I'll
it,
make a
Nigel.
motion.
Go
I'm
ahead.
happy to make a motion that we put this on the agenda in January and February. That we, Robin, help me out here. We look for a facilitator prior to the January meeting and engage one prior to the January meeting, and that we use that meeting as the first of however many is necessary meetings to attain our 5-year plan.
That's good.
You can add in
Nigel,
person
would
or
you
in
permit
Zoom.
me to suggest a tweak to your motion?
Oh, yeah, that was a rambling mess, so
Yeah,
feel
well,
free to
I
fix it.
would, perhaps we should separate things out and simply make one motion to appoint, and Smitty said he knows some. I happen to know some too. I'm going to be involved in a goal-setting process on a foundation board that I'm on. And I know that this is the Rotary Club, and they have several names. I'm not saying I want to do this, but I think there are people in our group who we could have 2 or 3 people who would look into and bring back names of facilitators with resumes and what they do. So maybe that's the first step, is at the October meeting, or at the latest at the November meeting, that we select a facilitator. And we also have to figure out how we're going to manage the cost of that. We don't have dollars for
Sure.
that. So,
Do we
are
need a
we
little
all going to
committee
chip
or
in
panel
$100 or whatever? I mean, I don't know. To me, that's the first
Let-
step, is to talk about the
Let's do that all.
facilitator.
Maybe would we call that governance? What would that be called in the world? Like a governance committee to
Find a
Set this up.
facilitator committee.
well, just all the
Governance is-
details.
Governance is typically what it's called. That's correct.
Yeah.
I'm not a great fan of another committee, Smitty, to be honest with you. I would rather just make a
Well,
motion
but
to
I don't want to do this by going around the room like on a Zoom call. Let's just put, one person or even just in charge of, if you like, I'll be that person, but or 3 persons if we have to do that, to just go set this all up. Whether
Fine.
it's on
I
Zoom
move,
or
I
live
move to
or
make Smitty the
facilitate.
chair. I move to make Smitty the chair of the new governance committee, and
Second.
he can pick 2 other people to join him on that.
All right.
All right, we
So,
got a motion on the floor,
discussion?
Louise.
Okay, roll call.
Would you repeat the motion, please, Louise?
Good luck.
And good luck.
You did it to
Yeah, I
yourself.
was
mate.
gonna
You
say,
did
let
it
me
to
see if I
yourself.
understood this one correct. So the motion was to make Smitty the committee chair to find a facilitator of the governance committee, if I understood it correct.
Yeah, and
I
to
would-
choose
it
2
tasked
other
with-
members of to choose 2 other
Tasked
members of
with-
the Arts Commission to join him on that committee.
I think it's a panel. Let's call it.
The Smitty panel,
committee,
but it's not
committee.
just to pick a facilitator, it's to schedule.
Oh, let's call it a jury.
Schedule and coordinate and facilitate a strategic planning session to be held at a future date that's convenient to the commission.
The first job being to find a facilitator.
I'll second that
to
motion.
bring it back.
Yeah, but that becomes my problem. But that's on there for sure.
Okay.
All right.
And everyone
Right,
here
Louis,
that's
so-
mentioned, they know one, I would happily talk to them about.
All right.
Yeah.
You want
Louis,
to repeat the motion
Louis,
so
sort
we're
through
clear
that
what the
word, Stu,
motion
if you
is,
can, and come up
Louis?
with something
We
decent.
jumped all over the place, so you want to repeat the motion that I think we will be discussing and voting on?
Rather than saying it wrong, once again, Smitty, would you be so kind to go ahead and repeat? As I understood it, the motion was to make you.
Okay, let me try.
Sure.
I move that a governance committee be formed, chaired by Smitty, with 2 other members of the commission, to schedule, facilitate a strategic planning session.
5-year goals.
Well, we'll say which will contain 5-year goals, because that's the thing that
Strategic
we have to
planning
do
process.
right here.
Strategic planning process, Smitty, that will contain 5-year goals.
Yes,
Retain a facilitator. Find, research, and retain a facilitator.
you're taking the words right out of my mouth, Nigel. It's beautiful. I wish I
We're
could
so
do it with that
close.
beautiful accent, though.
All right, I think,
To be
is everyone
scheduled
clear?
at a
Is everyone
time
clear
as
on
near
what the motion is?
In the future as practicable.
Okay.
Okay, Louise, can we just add in there that the committee members for the governance committee would be at Smitty's behest, his decision, his choice, however you want to phrase it.
Yes, will do.
Because I know
Okay,
everybody
okay.
on this commission wants to be on there.
Do they really? We're just setting it up. It's just party planning. This is just party planning.
With the agreement of the commissioner.
Mm. With the agreement of that particular commissioner, yeah.
This is just party planning. This isn't making any real decisions.
Okay, you guys, let's slog through this. Is there any discussion on that very convoluted motion?
It was very clear.
Clear, okay, it's clear. It's clear to everyone? All right, let's, discussion. Okay, roll call, please.
Okay. Commissioner Gerber,
Yes.
Commissioner Steiner,
Yes.
Commissioner Golden,
Yes.
Commissioner Chisholm,
Yes.
Commissioner West,
Yes.
Chair Tosher,
Yes,
Commissioner St. James Lopez.
Yes.
Motion passes all yes.
okay.
I just raise just a point of order regarding time. We are the Arts Commission. The first night of the Music Fest is happening at 9 o'clock. I don't know how many people have tickets. I do.
I do.
I do.
I do.
Yeah, so
Let's move it.
I don't know. I'm not sure how to, I mean, I have to leave in about 25 minutes.
Well, let's move this along. I don't think there's anything we need to belabor. Can we move along? The next item, okay, 5-year goals, discuss that. Then the next thing is very simple. It's in your packet. It's a letter on behalf that the Ventura County Arts Council wrote to the, I think it was the County of Ventura, seeking, imploring them to earmark a certain amount of the American Rescue Plan funds that they got, to earmark it for arts and cultural matters. So they came to me and asked if they could, we could lend our support to this endeavor. They, although it's Ventura County, they said that monies would be allocated to art in the county of, in the Ojai Valley, you know, and we would benefit from that. So I just would like your permission to represent that point of view, that support to Ventura. Did anyone have a
Yes.
chance to look at that letter that they wrote?
Yes, it sounds fine. I just don't know if we're past the point of it, but, because it wasn't supposed to be done a couple of months ago.
He said it's still in process, was my understanding.
All right, well, whatever we can do, we should do, I think.
Okay, I'm going to handle it. Okay, thank you. Next, we have a joint meeting with the,
Did we vote to approve this?
well, I don't know if we need a vote. Do we need a vote?
Not if
We do.
everybody's in agreement.
I think everyone's in agreement.
Yeah,
Okay.
and if there's any.
So we're going to
any
support
differences,
this?
then-
Yeah, we're going to
That
support
wasn't
their
clear to
efforts.
me, I'm sorry.
We're going to support their efforts.
Thank you.
Okay, the next thing is that on December 14th, you should mark this down, that's a Tuesday, the Arts Commission is having a joint session with City Council. So we need to start thinking about what we want to discuss on the agenda. Previous arts commissions have discussed, this was one year, they discussed with,
The committee reported in previous years, that's how it worked every time.
okay,
We
and the
can't hear
committee
what you're
reported what they
saying.
want to discuss during the joint meeting. So at one joint session, they discussed, there was an update on the architecture book project, there was an update on the student mentor program, there was, they discussed the city art collection at the museum, they discussed they needed a movable storage rack, which we have now, and the Public Art Committee discussed a sculpture park on city land, and then our favorite subject, murals. And then in another arts commission discussed with the joint meeting, the Public Art Committee in general, I guess, Artist Mentor Program, City Gallery Committee, Arts Education Committee, Arts, so it was just committee reports, I guess. They just gave committee reports to the city council, so.
And can I suggest that we, it would be great to have that list and then we hold this over for the next meeting?
Can you forward this to everyone?
Yes, absolutely.
Luis?
I'll go ahead
Okay.
and forward those two agendas to.
Okay,
to the
great.
entire
It's an
commission.
example, and, you know, we can do whatever we want, but just as a starting point, you know, we might get some ideas from this, or maybe you have some other thoughts, what you want to discuss with city council.
Did you say a date?
Is that
Yeah,
7
December
p.m.?
14th. It's a Tuesday. Yeah, December 14th, Tuesday. Whatever time they meet, right?
Yeah, it's tentatively scheduled for Tuesday, December 14th at 6 p.m. And,
6,
yeah,
6
yeah,
p.m.
Yeah,
Not when they meet, it's
yeah.
prior-
It's
An hour
prior
before-
to-
an hour
yeah, It
before,
would be prior
okay.
to the meeting,
So
yeah.
Tuesday, December 14th?
At 6 p.m.
That is correct. Yes, that is a tentative date.
Okay. And then we're going to give very brief status updates or whatever, starting with the awards committee and Nigel.
Right. So we're at the Hope Fraser Award time scheduled for October, I think. Is that correct, Marcy?
We had to push it.
Yeah. So it's scheduled for October. We need to pick a Hope Fraser. Well, we don't need to, but we're going to pick a Hope Fraser Award for this year, as we talked about very much earlier this year. The awards got kind of messed up. We're getting them back on track, which is why we're doing this in October. When we did the award for the Lifetime Achievement, I sent you all out packets for the Lifetime Achievement Award nominees. I asked you for nominees for that within a certain date. I think I probably also sent you out packets with the Hope Fraser Awards. If I didn't, then we have a list of 12 people historically. I collated all the various lists that we had, and there's 12 people on that list currently. The Hope Fraser Award is as follows. Named in honor of former Arts Commissioner Hope Fraser, the award is given in recognition of the social and cultural benefits of an individual's work in or for the arts. The award recognizes the recipient for their social contribution to our community, either by increasing participation or expanding the avenues of the arts, and thereby increasing our sensitivity to the human condition. It can go to anybody. It's typically not been awarded every year. In fact, it's only been awarded 6 times since 2008 at its inception, and the plan is to award it this year. Very briefly, Commissioner Stein and Commissioner Gerby are on the awards committee too. It hasn't been necessary to discuss this because we discussed it a long time ago, and this date was kind of set in stone. Really what we're looking for at the awards committee is what we're going to do next year and the year beyond, if that's all right with you guys. And so I'll send out that packet to everybody. If you have anybody that you would like to add to that list so that we can all have a look and make a decent recommendation, that would be great. I'll send that list out tomorrow through Luis. What I would like is if there's any further recommendations that I get them a week before the next meeting so that I can add them to the packet and make sure the new names go out to commissioners and we can just pick a deserving individual. It's an important honor, this. I'm supportive of the awards that we give out. And what we do in here is these people don't have to be artists. They can be people who contribute toward the art in town as well. It can be the guy or the girl who's moving the chairs for the Ojai Music Festival tonight, and they've done it for the last 20 years. Whoever you think is deserving of increasing our sensitivity and enjoyment of the arts in our community is definitely possible for an award.
Thank you.
Here. So that's that. Any questions? Pile on. If not, let's move forward.
Okay, moving on. Commissioner Gerber, do you want to give us any updates or information that we need from the Public Relations Committee?
Not really, because I want to get changed, but I just want to thank Eric for your work on the website and Nigel and Smitty for the videos, and let's move along.
Okay. Smitty, Arts Education Committee, is there anything to report?
No, just we're working on the next video, and stay tuned. You guys will have something to look at in about a week.
Great. Thank you. The next thing, any ideas for future agenda items?
Yes, I think we need to revisit the climate park and the public art discussion around the climate park, because I don't believe there's...
The climate park discussion is already been set for January, when we're going to have an update from the climate park committee, from the actual climate park. We established to do that in January quite a while ago. We're not ready to do that until January.
I just wanted a status report on the climate park, and
Well, you just got it. We're
request
waiting
the
for
commission-
them, and they will be ready.
Sorry,
They
I'm being
promised me they'd be
interrupted
ready in
again.
January.
Can we not have interruptions, please? I think all of us deserve to understand what the status is. There's a lot of uncertainty about it, and we have committed or suggested a commitment, possibly, of quite a lot of money. So I would simply like an update. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, the update is that they're going to be ready to give us an update in January. So that would be the update. So I
I
think
wanted the
we
update
don't
from
need
the
to put it on
Public
the
Art
agenda
Committee.
because I'm giving you the update.
It's not
I don't
agenda.
have anything until January. There's nothing to report until
Not
January.
you, it's the Public Art Committee, which is more than just one person. So I'm suggesting, please, that we have a report, agendize a report regarding also the status of the climate park. I would like to know, I don't know if anyone else would, but I'd like to know what's going on.
Well, if you have some place where you can get information, that's great, but that's the latest, I guess, that we have.
I am not asking for a report right now, nor is it appropriate. What we're discussing is future agenda items. And this is my suggestion for an agenda item. If you want to ignore it, it wouldn't be the first time.
Okay, thank you, Robin. Okay, anyone else? Okay, thank you. Luis, you have the liaison report.
Yes, thank you. So we'll go ahead and begin with project subject to public art. So as you will go ahead and see on the report, the first item on there is Rancho Inn. They have applied for outdoor sales. So in this particular case, there's no construction. So it does. So this particular item does not apply for public art. The second one is, hopefully I'm saying this right, Tipple and Ramble, the business located on 315 North Montgomery Street. It looks like they are going to be doing outdoor dining lights. And this particular project is pending review by the Planning Commission. So at this point, we don't, we're unsure whether it's going to go ahead and apply or not. That's something that we'll go ahead and keep an eye on, and I can come back with the report at the next meeting to see if that applies. And then third would be the El Roblar Hotel. As previously reported, the El Roblar Hotel is doing construction. They're going to be doing remodeling 50 rooms, which 19 are bungalows. And if I'm not mistaken, they're going to be renovating their pool as well. So this one again is being reviewed by the Planning Commission. Once that has been reviewed, then I can go ahead and provide further updates on that. And then other than that, there's really no other projects in the work as far as like any updates there. In reference to the Public Art Fund, item 2, there's really no updates here either. There hasn't been any expenditures. The only thing that you may go ahead and notice is on the last item there, we had spent $150 for the labels for the municipal collection, and and we still have 150 remaining to go ahead and spend there. Other than that, there's really no changes.
Great,
And that's it.
thank you, Luis. Now we can go around if anyone has any commissioner comments they'd like to make now. Robin,
Yes, I would.
go ahead.
I want to say I'm very, very thankful that we have one of the top 10 arts lawyers in the country on this commission, and that's Commissioner Steiner. The idea that we would want to remove her, I think, is frankly ridiculous. The idea that the chair of this commission tried to do that through wasting the time of the city staff and members of the city council is frankly unconscionable. And I know I sent you all an email about this, but I do not want it to be swept under the rug, because I care a lot about this city, this commission, how all commissions operate. That is never done. It was a really unconscionable power play, and I despise that kind of government, and I will fight against it, and I want to make a public statement about it. And again, let's just all be grateful that we have a great range of backgrounds here, and particularly someone who I really appreciate having here for her expertise.
I don't think that, Commissioner Gerber, it would be appropriate for me to air the dirty laundry of the Arts Commission at this point, but let's just say that as chair, various reports come to me, and I'm responsible for taking care of commissioners and making sure that the Arts Commission is handled properly and that arts commissioners are protected. I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to get into a debate, but there are always two sides to every story. I'll leave it at that. Nigel?
Yeah, I hadn't really pondered on what anybody was going to say, but seeing as that has cropped up, what I would say is that the most important thing is that we have a functional commission, and that starts with having respect for everybody, and that everybody is honest and forthright with each other. And it's okay to have different views. There's no question about that. But if you lose respect, then you've lost everything. I'm not fully aware of the ins and outs, the backgrounds of any of this. I don't think it's wise to be discussing any of this in public. I don't think it benefits anybody particularly. You end up with a she said, he said, she said, she said, he said, he said kind of situation that Eric approached earlier on. But for myself, you're useless unless you can work together as a team. The best teams are made up of diverse individuals. They're made up of respectful individuals. You don't have to care for everybody. You don't have to like everybody, but you do have to respect everybody. And so that is where I end up on that one. And I'll finish that there. But I would like to say that I've spent a heap of time with Smitty over the past few days. And you folks have no idea how hard he works producing these videos. It's quite remarkable. There's one in the works, like he alluded to just a few minutes ago. It'll be out in a few days, I suspect. But Commissioner West has put in probably a good 40 hours producing what will be a 3-minute, 4-minute video. It's quite ridiculous. So it's been a pleasure sitting down with you, Smitty, and watching you work and being a little part of that. And to those who don't think that there's much work that goes on behind the scenes on this commission, there really is. But we have to understand that we're here to enhance this community, not to tear it apart. So let's all try and do that, shall we?
Thank you, Nigel. Eric, do you have some comments you would like to share?
Yeah, I just want to say that I care about everyone on this commission, and I want to apologize for me feeling like I've been kind of missing in action the last, I don't know how many, 2 months, I guess I'll say. And I also want to say that I've gotten, I've spoken with other commissioners outside of meetings, and I do believe that when people have spoken to me from the commission, I believe that they believe what they're saying, if that makes sense. And I don't believe that there is deceit going on. I believe everyone believes in what they're saying. And I want to listen to everyone's opinion. And I don't want to feel like I have to pick a side. And I will continue to vote based on what I'm hearing during the meetings. Because I've honestly, this is my own personal work I need to do. I got overwhelmed by feeling as if I had to pick a side in some way. I don't know how intentional or unintentional that was. That's just how I felt. And I don't think anyone was seeking to make me feel uncomfortable. And I just want to say that I want to feel like these meetings are fun, and I wish to take a lighter tone towards our meetings. Also, of course, take things respectfully and make decisions respectfully. But the tone of the meetings are gone extremely serious, and I would like to alleviate that somehow, and I don't know how that occurs. But I want to thank you all for being here, and that's all I have to say.
Thank you for sharing a very vulnerable thing to say. Thank you, Eric. Smitty?
I may lighten it up
Good. Comic relief.
to my, well, serious though, to my Jewish friends, Som Kal, which means it's dark, which means the fast is over. And to you Philistine Gentiles like myself, happy Yom Kippur. Thank you.
Thank you, Smitty. Commissioner Steiner?
Yes, thank you. As I think you are aware, this commission has great turnover, likely greater turnover than any other commission. I think that's unfortunate, and I do think that I've seen some dysfunction on this committee. I just want to emphasize what Robin said. The mere fact that there would be an attempt to remove any commissioner who has served for a mere few months without speaking with that commissioner about any concerns that anyone would have on any subject whatsoever, if it does nothing else, it creates a chilling effect for anyone and everyone who would seek to serve on any commission for the benefit of this city. And so for that reason, I can only say shame on you.
Thank you. Meeting adjourned. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm being called on, you know. All right, so I just love commissioner comments. They used to be devoted to announcing things that were going on in the city that we could all go and attend. But I just want to say that I am so grateful that we have a chair on the commission that we can all go to privately and express our concerns. And I will tell you that a majority of commissioners express their concerns, and that's all I have to say.
Meeting adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.